game, you can watch the game, you can live stream the game.
Oh, I didn't think I was.
Live, okay.
No,
Is that
not
TV
yet.
on?
Is that TV? It wasn't getting a good signal a moment ago. I wonder if we're watching a different channel.
I think it's on the bottom right, Anthony. Oh, there you go. Micromanager from afar.
Of course, they can probably
Shocking.
hear you.
Chris, text me if you can hear me. Technical difficulty, folks. We'll be getting going in just a minute.
I want to make sure.
Mr. Sanders is on it. We got
Want to make sure we're live.
our IT guy. Oh, look at that. There we
All
go.
right. Wait a minute, that's the box first.
It's going to pick you up, Anthony, as you go by. You want to see yourself?
No.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting, Monday, November 13th. I'd like to start off by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Clerk, if you'd lead us, please.
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Okay, folks, for the agenda tonight, we've got, we'll read the mail. Item 2 is department updates. We've got an appointment of 2 reserve police officers by the police department. We'll have the Director of Finance and Budget. Bonnie's got a fiscal timeline update for us. We've got the town website launch, and the library trustees will be in front of us talking about a gift agreement. At 7:05, we've got an opportunity for public input and member updates. If anybody from the public wishes to be heard, I just ask that you raise your hand, be recognized by the chair, and just introduce yourself by saying your name and your street address, please. Any comments should be directed through the chair. Next up, we'll have an FY 2018 property tax classification hearing. This is the Board of Selectmen's favorite hearing of the year, where we set the tax classification and ultimately the tax rate. So at 8:15, we'll go into licensing, a license for the Tavern on the Square. 8:30, the Board of Selectmen will get into some goal updates for some of our goals, and we'll discuss our meeting schedule through May of 2018. We have an opportunity for the town administrator, assistant town administrator to give some updates. Specifically, we do need to discuss the Cooper Farm parcel. We'll be hopefully voting on and accepting the deed this evening. Then we'll have an opportunity to approve some minutes from prior meetings, and then hopefully by 9 p.m. we will adjourn. Over-under is 10 o'clock. We're looking at 9 p.m. All right, so first up on the agenda is read the mail, please, Mr. Town Administrator, Mr. Bergman.
Mr. Chair, just a few items. First, we had received a notice from the MBTA of some work that was going to be done along the Fitchburg line in Littleton, some drill work, said it was going to be noisy. Chief, I don't know if we heard whether the work had commenced yet.
I don't believe it has yet, but
Yeah.
I see parts along the line of them gearing up to start.
And it's supposed to last one day. It will be a noisy day, and it wasn't today, so it's either,
That's me.
so it's tomorrow or coming up soon, so. And we also received an alert, a legislative alert from the Massachusetts Municipal Association, this time calling to our attention the impact of some federal tax reform legislation that is under consideration in Congress now. And one version, at least, I think it's the Senate version that would propose to delete the state and federal tax deductions. And I think the House version is insisting upon them. And it's an alert that if we are interested, if municipal officials are interested in helping that impact be lessened on our constituents, that we should alert our congressmen and senators. So last week, we got an alert on some state legislation that was passing, which are, as we noted, Senator Eldridge acted quickly upon. We have a letter for board members to sign tonight to thank Jamie for that. So that's it for tonight.
Great. Thank you very much. Item number 2 is department updates. First up, we have the police department with an opportunity to bring some candidates for reserve officer appointments. So,
Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I'd like the deputy chief to present the candidates to you.
by all means.
Evening. We're bringing forward Ryan Richard of Shirley and Michael Murphy of Holden for appointment to the reserve officer positions that we've had open. We had 3 positions open. 2 of them were from us hiring Jesse Bowen and Brian Kiley as full-time officers from our reserve program. That's always something we like to try and do since we know the reserves and had a chance to work with them. So we're replacing their positions. This will leave us still with 1 open position that we'll have to continue to advertise for. But Mr. Richard, right here, is currently attending Fitchburg State University. He's in the concentration program where he will graduate with a master's degree in the police academy. And he also went to the Reserve Academy in Boylston. And I don't know if you want to take one at a time or...
It's a pleasure of the board.
One at a time.
One at a time. There we go. The elder spokesman.
Wait, see, God, you had to fit that in.
I had to. Ryan, you can sit down if you're more comfortable, by all means. First of all, thank you both for coming out and welcome. And appreciate you submitting your applications and being here with us tonight.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, so kind of a customary, basically the police department has brought you guys forward, so we trust that they've done their diligence and they've talked to you guys, and they wouldn't bring you here before us if they didn't feel as though you were the right guys for the job. So we would typically will ask a couple questions, just get to know you a little bit better, and kind of what makes you tick. So we're going to go with you first, Ryan, and Mr. Murphy will have an opportunity to hear your answers and, you know. Cindy, you want to go first?
Sure, so if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself personally, Mr.
Sure.
Richard, and I was just looking through, you go to Fitchburg State University and excellent school, so just a little bit about yourself.
All right. So I'm 21. I grew up in Shirley. I love sports. I played sports and all throughout high school. I was a 4-year captain of basketball and football. And I went through the Massachusetts Student Trooper Academy, so I knew that steered me right in the right direction. And my father and a bunch of my family members also were in law enforcement or are in law enforcement, so I've known what I've wanted to do for a very long time, and so here I am today.
Awesome.
What are some of the lessons you think you learned from playing sports that helps you with where you are today in life?
Definitely how to be a role model and how to work hard. I would love to be a role model for the community of Littleton, so there I can lead by example. And working hard is, you know, that's the only thing, you know, other than enjoying your job, you have to work hard so there you can succeed.
Excellent, thank you.
Mr. Knox.
Well, number 1, you went to Fitchburg State, or going to Fitchburg State. I went there, so that's a big plus.
School's that old?
For those who don't know, this happens all the time. Overall, what's your objective for the future? No, maybe not even the first 5 years. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
Ideally, I would love to be working for a police department. You know, here would be a great starting place, but overall, I would love to be a state trooper at some point.
Did you put any applications into towns like Shirley? You're from Shirley? Or?
No, sir. No, sir, I did not.
I won't go any further. We had developed in Fitchburg, in Shirley, so I was up there all the time and got to hear a lot of the gossip that was going on.
Fair enough. I've been on the receiving end of Ryan in his role modeling and teaching some lessons to some Littleton youth on the basketball court, as well as on the football field. So as far as a leader on the athletic fields and courts, I've witnessed that, and he definitely demonstrates leadership, and he's a gentleman and a good sportsman when he's on the field. I would hope and I would anticipate that would come forth in this position as well. The questions that have been asked of you already are pretty much kind of what we're looking for. We're looking to get to know a little bit about each of you, and I guess I'll just go a little bit deeper than Mr. Knox's question. And why Littleton? Is it the proximity? Is it to get back at some of the guys that got you on the... No.
There's just a lot more people here, that you can communicate and interact with. And, I went to school, we've taken a bunch of communication classes, and I love to talk to people in general anyways. So, and there's, just a lot of opportunity to grow and succeed here. So, and I just find myself as a good fit here and looking forward to the future.
Okay, great. The only other question I have for you is relative to, you mentioned the Student Police Academy. It could be a pretty grueling process. What would you say was the number one thing you took away from that experience, that 1 week experience?
How to be yourself. With any job, you have to love what you got to do. And going through that, there was people that dropped out and all this stuff, but as, mentally, and your heart being in it, I could see myself being in this career, so I just stuck with it, and here I am. So,
That's good. All right. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Want to present
Sure.
Mr. Murphy for us?
The second candidate we have for you is Michael Murphy. He's from Holden, Mass. He attended the Western Massachusetts Police Academy for a full-time recruit officer, so he's a full-time trained. He's currently owns his own business, Murphy General Contracting, and he also works for the Oakham Police Department. And he wishes to come here and work as a reserve officer.
Great. The same order, you want me to switch it up?
You can switch it up.
Oh, that's the same question I did before. 10 years from now, what do you see in your future? Is it police work or is it something else?
It's definitely police work. I've been changing my career direction the last 6 years, pointing it more towards police work and less construction. So hopefully in 10 years, I'd love to be able to have an opportunity to open it up and potentially get on here in Littleton as a full-time officer.
What do you do with the Oakham Police Department?
Patrolman. It's a small town, so we're very community-based. It's a very small population, 2,500 people. So you kind of know the houses, the individuals. You know a lot about the town in some way that's so small.
Thank you.
That is small. I was going to ask you. I'm not familiar with Oakham. So what are some of the community policing activities that you participated in?
We're involved in the senior center. The police association puts on a barbecue in the summer every year for the seniors, and whoever wants to comes down. They have, typical barbecue stuff, chicken hot dogs and hamburgers. We just put it on as reserves and just to show our gratitude for the longer standing members of the town. There's some kids stuff with the school that we're involved in, different basketball games, that kind of thing. Halloween just recently, so normal stuff.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
All right, so I guess kind of touched on a little bit about community policing. What is something, having been your own boss and run your own business and owning your own business, what is something that you think from doing that, you'd be able to bring to the Littleton Department?
It's, with the construction, it shows that usually you're dealing with somebody's largest asset as well as an emotional time, because people are trying to get their house ready now, fixed, holidays, that kind of thing. So it teaches you to have a sense of urgency while maintaining high standards, as well as being able to manage other people's emotions sometimes, and feeling sensitive to their needs, being able to meet it in all directions.
Satisfied? Actually, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask of both candidates,
No, I mean, I reviewed both of your resumes. I'm impressed with what I see. So,
and as I mentioned before, you've kind of, being presented to us, you've kind of gone through the process. And we appreciate you giving us the time to meet you and to ask you a couple questions to get to better know you. And you guys represent well and you travel well. And I'd entertain a motion to appoint each of you.
Move the Board of Selectmen appoint Ryan Richard of Shirley, Mass. And Michael Murphy of Holden, Mass. As reserve patrol officers for the Littleton Police Department.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Congratulations. You're welcome.
And you've already been tweeted, so.
Yes.
Congratulations. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
So we'll see you all around town.
There's gonna be anyone left.
Thank you for coming out. All right. Traffic was fun tonight, Mr. Gerby?
it's like somebody heard there was a snowflake in the air, and all of a sudden, it turned into a disaster.
Yeah. All right, next up, we have Ms. Fleck, Director of Finance and Budget for Fiscal Timeline.
Great.
Welcome aboard. Good to have you here.
Keith had asked me to just provide the board with kind of an update of what's going on in the finance department, and both in the near and sort of long-term future. So the main thing that we're focused on currently is the system conversion to Munis under Tyler Tech. As you might remember, we got the approval to go forward with that at the May town meeting. We received the funding. We awarded the contract to Tyler, and we've started the work of the conversion. Pretty much in September is when the work really started, and they've been on site here in town for about 4 weeks since the middle of September. I would preface this whole conversion with, this is not plug-and-play technology. It's not like they can just come in and take my chart of accounts and convert it, and you're done, and you're ready to go. We have some systemic problems within the current chart of accounts, both on the town and the school side, that we need to correct. So if we don't correct it up front, it's garbage in, garbage out. I'm not going to get the reporting capabilities that we really need to have. And this is going to be critical in the citizens component. So there's going to be citizens' access to the town's data. So if I don't get the chart of accounts set up correctly, that's not going to work properly on the back end. We have about 6,700 accounts that I need to convert. Again, I have to break them down. I have to make sure that on the school side that they both comply with the Department of Revenue reporting requirements, but also the Department of Education and Secondary Education, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education requirements. So there's about 18 segments in this chart of accounts. Some are mine and some are theirs, and I need to make them all work. So again, it's not just taking an account number and converting it. I have to map it. So that takes some time. I'm about 3/4 of the way through the 6,700 accounts. From that point, I'll have to convert the vendor files. We have about 3,000 active vendor files that we'll need to map and convert. That'll be a little bit easier since those are pretty clean. We're anticipating a soft conversion for April so that we can test the data and make sure that everything's working under a live environment. So I'll run things in our existing software and in the new software and just test the totals and make sure everything comes out all right. The go-live date will be July 1st of 2018. So from that point forward, I will not be running financials. We will still be running payroll in the old system. The payroll conversion will start after that. That is a large undertaking that will require its own set of resources. So we can't really focus on both at the same time. We need to do one and then the other. We anticipate payroll being converted in January of 2019. So it is a long-term process, but the data that we will be able to get out of this will be so much better than what we're able to extract from the system currently. The reporting will be easier both on the state level for myself and for the schools. And then the citizens will have access, and the employees will have a lot of access to the data. The other thing that we're working on is outlining the workflow process. So right now, we have a very paper-centric software system. So you put things into the system, you print a batch. You have to get supervisors' authority signatures actually on the paper before you can process it. This pushes things out to the supervisors. They can approve it electronically. Everything's encrypted. You have your own passwords. So it's meant to work in a decentralized environment. But we have to set up the workflow, which we don't have right now. So it's kind of a lot of looking at how we do things now and how we're going to do them in the future. And we want to balance it out with not having too many approval processes so that people don't get buried in, it's got to go through 3 layers of supervisors before a bill can get paid, but have good financial controls. So we've been working with some other communities that have the system and kind of seeing, what worked and what didn't. So there's a lot of research that goes behind this. So I know it seems like, it'd be great if we could just convert and get it done with, but we're going as fast as we can. But it does take some time. And most of it right now is my time, because I have to get the chart of account. So that's the software conversion. Coinciding with that, we have the year-end reporting that I'm doing now for the Department of Revenue. So I have to do all of the financial reports for 2017 into the state's gateway system, which has changed, and they didn't tell us. So I have to get all of our 2017 ending data into the system for our year-end close so that we can get our free cash certified and close that process out. Those are all due by the end of this month. The other thing that we're doing is we're setting the tax rate. We need to get this done like this week. And I have the data loaded. When you make your decision tonight, I'm going to go upstairs and hit the button and hopefully get things certified this week. But until you have everything in the system, the state will not certify your tax rate. So there's kind of a push to get all of this information in this month. And then, of course, I have the budgets that we're all due at the end of October. So I'll be, in the next 2 weeks, in addition to doing all the state reports, I'll be putting the budgets together for you and getting the books out to you, and getting an update for your December 4th meeting. So we'll have the 5-year projections at that meeting. You'll have the actual detailed budget requests and capital requests for the departments so that you'll have a good amount of time to review them before the December 16th meeting. And that way you can formulate the questions that you might have for that particular meeting. I will be planning to come to the Selectmen's meetings to give you updates. In addition to that, the meeting on the 4th, I'll be there on the 16th, obviously, with any additional information. And then I'll be back on January 8th with another update and a draft budget to see, what it might look like based on your input on the 16th. And then again, I'm scheduling them for February 12th, March 12th, and April 9th. And as needed, if there are other issues that pop up that you need me to come in, I'll prepare them for those meetings too. But I'm scheduling those in my calendar so I don't get sidetracked with the conversion stuff, because that seems to be So that's where we are.
So when you said, you said that the new system's gonna go live July 1st. Does that mean the open checkbook will go live July 1st? Talk me through the actual timeline of the public access to
Sure, the
this
public
information.
access will be building in detail as of July 1st. So as an example, if you went on the end of July, and you wanted to see, you know, what the town has paid in detail to a particular vendor, you would see those checks. That system would be updated every week once we post a warrant.
Okay.
So you would have live data in there, updated weekly. You'll have totals for the previous 3 years, but you won't see the detail for those 3 years. I'm trying to work with Munis to see if I can get live, you know, details for this year, but it's a lot of mapping with journal entries that may or may not work. So
Okay.
I'm gonna try and get that in, but I don't wanna commit to that at this point.
I think we've made you explain that 2 or 3 times
Yeah,
now, and I think I'm
it's-
getting closer, but I may make you
It's a lot
explain
of-
it again.
Yeah.
Okay, so starting July 1st, the actual open checkbook tools, well,
It will be
whatever
building, yep.
post thereafter, okay. And then retroactively, we'll have that some
Totals.
capacity, okay.
Comments, questions?
No.
Just a couple comments, really. First of all, I love the fact that you collaborate with other communities. Let's find out what they, you know, what hurdles they ran into, and let's not trip over the same rocks they tripped over. So as much as possible, you know, talk to your friends in the community.
Absolutely.
I'm sure they've reached out to you and you've helped them out. And, you know, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, there's a lot of user groups, so it's
Yeah,
helpful.
I'm sure there are. And collaborations, I love that. The other question, you mentioned everything you talked about that you got to hear with the time, and that's a resource that we just can't build more of. How are you set for trying to manage all of this with the change and all of this? The other stuff's not going away. All the other stuff that you do still has to be done. So how are you managing that? Is there?
So far, you know, Anthony's been a huge, you know, help with not having to deal with the procurement at this point, and being able to offload that has allowed me to pick up the conversion duties. It's still, you know, a lot, but it's gonna be, there's gonna be crunch times. I'm used to that. You know, scheduling the updates, I think, will help me going forward, so that I'll know, you know, I need to come in these dates to the Selectmen's meeting, so I'm not, you know, last minute trying to prep something for you. I can plan for
I
it.
appreciate that. Yeah, that's all I really had the concern about, making sure that, you know, you're taken care of, but also make sure the stuff that you need to take care of is getting taken care of as well.
This is good.
With all of us being in the latter category. We miss you, Mark.
I'm just upstairs looking at spreadsheets.
Yeah. Well, just, I mean, obviously, there's always an open door for you to come to us, but if you can just try to appreciate you putting the schedule forward and giving us some opportunities
Yeah.
to see you and.
I did tell Keith I want to at least do monthly updates on the progress with the conversion. And I know some of it might seem repetitive, but at least you'll know that where we are in each phase. And as we get closer to go live, it'll be, you know, more interesting to see.
Yeah, and updates on the other stuff that you, I mean, this, you know.
Budgets galore.
Right.
Yeah, as Monty was saying to me, all bets are off as far as, you know, that once we
Right,
get
on the
into the
budget, yeah.
high budget season in December and January, we'll see a lot of money, so. Every meeting.
We're happy to see as much of you as you can tolerate.
Bonnie, does Munis create tools that are easily disseminated to members of the public so they can figure out what the open checkbook actually is?
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm afraid of is we develop this new tool and then you're like, great, it's implemented, and now you spend 90% of your day fielding questions
How
from,
do I find this?
right, how does this work? How do I deal with this?
I've actually gone onto a few communities' websites, and they're all built a little bit differently, you know, depending on how you want to export the data. But it's really easy to use because you can dump it into Excel.
Okay.
So like you can go in and look at like a vendor, you know, history, and then there's an export to Excel. So then you could, you know, dump it into some format that you might be looking to create. It's pretty easy to read.
Okay.
I can give you a couple of the communities that are using it, like Columbus, Ohio is one of them. I think it's the school district that's using it. And theirs is pretty slick, and that's what we're trying to model ours after.
What are there any communities in Massachusetts that you can?
I think Lexington is on it. I'll give you a list of the Massachusetts communities.
That'd be
because
Yeah,
others
it'd
give
be
us
great,
that.
I'd like to. poke around
Again, they're all a
understand.
little different in how they, because you can put out as much data as you want.
Mhm.
Some communities are gonna say, yeah, I'm not gonna let you drill down to, you know, vendor level.
Yeah.
Me, you know, it's public record, and the more that I have out in the web, the less that I have to stop and provide for somebody that might ask. If it's there, then they can go get it. And it's public record information anyway, so.
And you find it pretty navigable?
Yeah,
and
yeah, I was
intuitive.
kind of surprised how easy it was.
Good. And that's great. that you can Extract, whether it's crystal reports, whatever, then just dump it into
It's
Excel.
right into Excel, just,
Might have to convert those into Google Docs so that we can understand them on our new devices. Google Sheets, I guess it is. We'll learn. All right, any other questions or comments or anything you guys just want an update on Bonnie, how she's doing? It's good to see you. Thanks, Bonnie.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'll stay for the classification
Appreciate that too.
Because you're going to have the unused levy capacity calculation.
I have to go upstairs and put something.
That's not a totally selfless act. All right, good deal. So next up, we have the website launch. Are you driving the bus on that one?
I can.
Steve's here too.
Steve's here too.
Okay. Who's been sending me all these website updates? Is that Nancy?
Trying to catch up?
Yeah.
Stay current.
Okay, very good, great, that's great.
So Steve, we're still looking at about 2 weeks. We're looking at the 27th. The company is still finalizing the design on the Park and Rec sub-site. That should be done Monday or Tuesday of next week. We still have some staff training to do with Park and Rec and Library, and a couple of admin people in town, and that super user sitting up there, Keith, still needs one more thing of training. Just taking the time right now to go through the content as much as we can to make sure it's up to date and accurate, and trying to keep things current, because we're still posting things to the current site and they need to be uploaded again to the, so we're kind of running parallel.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. So they're spending double the time right now on the old site and the new site. So it's very time-consuming for them. And I know that a lot of the delay right now is to get everything that's going to be in our old site into the new site. So at some point, we may have to just jump in and then have both sites available, and then continue to convert.
Once we go live, the old site is no longer available, so.
Oh, okay, Nancy was talking about maybe having another domain that, okay.
I mean, at what point does it make sense to just rip off the Band-Aid, stop wasting the time trying to keep two things sort of going at the same time, and
27th.
27th, yeah, that's-
27, yeah, and the main thing is that we just have to make sure that the departments, Park and Rec, library's up, right?
Library's up, they've kind of finalized the content today. Park and Rec still has some work to do.
And once those go live, it'll go live, and we will be, updating exclusively just the new site, the new website.
Nice.
So we're getting closer.
Appreciate all the time and effort in that. All these, Anthony and Steve and Nancy.
Steve, Nancy, have been doing a ton of work, Diane Corey, so we
A lot
really,
of training for the staff.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Here comes the
Right. So next up, we go with,
Look at that.
Steve, Anthony?
Yep.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Library trustees, building project fundraising,
Hello,
welcome.
I'm Jenna Brownson, the chair of the library trustees. I didn't realize Katie was going to be joining us, but Katie Carruth is here tonight as well. And I was looking back through my folder, my library folder, and naming rights to BOS was mentioned back in May at our library trustee meeting. So I came before the board in your first meeting in July, I think it was the 9th or the 10th, to talk to you about naming rights, because it was our understanding that if we were to put someone's name, that being a generous donor, on a room or a section or what have you, that that would need to be approved by you, and there was some, right. So there was some confusion as to whether there was a policy and do we need a policy. Over the last many months, Town Council Tom Harrington and I have gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with various gift agreements. And I think that what we have provided to the Board of Selectmen is both in keeping with what the library trustees were hoping to have, to give to generous donors by way of a contract, and also what Tom Harrington believes is acceptable and includes some of the concerns that he had relative to the language in the document. So we have one document that really is about the naming rights, and a separate document which was more about any sort of gift that might be included on a wall plaque or on a donor wall, and also giving people an option with large donations to opt out of their name being on the wall. They could be named as anonymous if they wished. But as I said, so Attorney Harrington and I have been back and forth many times, and our board at our last meeting, the trustees, after some deliberation, have decided that these are the best we're going to be able to come up with. And in part because we need the document to be vague enough that we can fill in the blanks, but concise enough that it is contractual in nature. So I believe you have the last two iterations, and
Which town council is fine with, and it has been a while. We've got, we had 2 face-to-face meetings in July and then in August, and then several attempts at this meeting tonight,
Yes.
which we're able to,
Yes.
we're finally able to pull off, so.
you probably have seen your agendas with a scrawl through it, and it's because there was a little bit of miscommunication and some confusion, and of course, dealing with the board, you have 6 chefs in one kitchen, so at least our board is 6 chefs. So this is what we have for your consideration, perhaps is the best word.
Good. Thanks. Just see if anybody has any questions.
Sure.
It's pretty straightforward. We had an opportunity to take a look at the 2 forms. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
I have a couple of questions. One, under the first of the 2, the gift agreement for the building fund, section 3, last sentence, recognition shall expire if the library moves or is significantly altered. Is there any definition of significantly altered? Do we know what that means? It seems a little squishy. But then again, if you and Tom are okay with that, I'm not inclined to push too hard, but I wanted to understand what that means.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we're trying to include there is if all of a sudden the decision were made to convert this entire building to library, we're going to have this palatial library, and town offices were to move over there. I mean, if we were to have some sort of crazy switch up in the future, that there'd be no guarantee that the plaque would come over to this building, right? Or if all of a sudden the building were not to be used for library purposes for some unforeseeable reason, because libraries are a necessary component of any good community. I imagine that it incorporates that sort of sentiment in that sentence there.
But there's no other, I'm not missing a definition.
No, that's, we probably could put some Latin in there, but then that would have made it even more obtuse. So, no, or is significantly altered.
Okay. And is there similar language in the other?
There's similar squishy language, yes, in the other document as well.
See, it's a technical thing.
Including a hold harmless if due to circumstances beyond our control.
Yes.
The reconfiguration of the building or the circumstances makes naming the specific naming impossible or moot, and we're held harmless.
Correct. We don't have to name something else.
Yeah.
So, and part of the reason why these are necessary is that many people will be making a pledge, and that pledge may be conditional. specifically conditional on the townspeople voting whether or not to come up with the remainder of any money not raised by the fundraising committee, or if it takes more than a year to fulfill a contract, you do need to have it in writing. So for those reasons, these are necessary documents that town council and I have come up with. And on my end, seems satisfactory to my board, and on his end is satisfactory to the
protects the
town's,
town. Yeah, it's a
I guess,
good-
exposure.
good deal.
Not that I predict that anyone is going to pledge and then say, well, I'm not giving it to you. They could do that, but I don't foresee going to small claims and suing townspeople, right? I mean, if someone has been generous to pledge something and then all of a sudden there's a, catastrophic event and they can't, I mean, certainly, we're not going after anyone.
Right.
However, having things in writing makes it clear as to what someone's generosity is going to be, and the trustees can have an expectation of what that's going to look like.
And is there a definition in here, maybe I missed it, I probably did, of how long the pledge is good for until it expires?
Yeah, so with respect to the payment schedule, there is a way to be really clear, despite the fact that it's vague, to be clear when you fill it out, to say, well, I'm going to give $500 a year for 4 years.
Mhm.
So there is a way to make sure that the donor's intent is clear for both the donor and for the library.
Okay.
And I would imagine they could likely, from that example you just gave, $500 a year for 4 years.
Yeah.
Upon, they could say they're gonna start that upon approval.
Yes,
Town meeting,
yeah.
or something of that nature.
Right, right.
Which, I was involved in a rather large capital campaign. We lived in Stoneham to do a huge church remodel, multi-million-dollar church remodel, and there was a number of pledges that were made. Unfortunately, the issue with the Catholic Church and the
Sure.
sexual abuse scandal,
Yeah.
there was a lot of pledges that were withdrawn, so.
We're hoping to
Hopefully
avoid
there's no
that sort of scandal. I'm fairly certain our library staff are appropriate with small children, so thanks for bringing that up, Jeff. Thanks for everyone, right? Those who go to libraries and to church, thanks.
Right. You just never know.
You never know.
So it's good that there are some protections for everybody, for the trustees, for the folks that are making the pledges as well. Any comments, questions?
I don't think so. If you went, like you said, you worked hard with town council on this, Jenna, so I don't have any questions at this time.
That's good.
All recitals look good.
All the recitals?
That was not my word. I actually preferred more plain language, but, Tom wanted the word recitals and whereas, and so did
Whereas we have an attorney.
Whereas we have an attorney, we shall use Latin at every opportunity.
Joe, loves a good recital.
Well, and if I could take just a moment to thank both Joe and Cindy for coming to the I Read Past My Bedtime event on Friday night. It was great to have both of you come, and we had other folks from town who, anyway, you were there, and firefighter Casey was there, Michelle Barth, who's a kindergarten teacher, and other Susan Harvey, also a teacher, sort of the usual suspects, or perhaps the unusual suspects. It was nice to have people come to the library and have a good time with little kids, so.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it was a fun event. It was
You
a
just
lot
kind of
of
stole
fun.
some of their thunder for the member input, but.
Oh, I know, they can thunder in during that room as well, so.
Well, thank you for recognizing them. That was
Yeah, it was great, it was
awesome
great
event.
to have them,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's good.
Thank you.
All right, seems like we have no more deliberation or questions, so entertain a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the form of library building project fundraising gift agreements as prepared by the library trustees, subject to approval as to form by town council.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate all the effort.
Appreciate it.
After all that time.
Right? Here we go. All right, so we have 7:15, it's a public hearing, right?
We are, yes, we're at a public hearing for 7:50.
So,
There's a notice to read.
we could read that, and then we want to jump right into that. I see that Mr. Field is here. I don't know if we can maybe do public input, member input, and then come back to this after we open it? Or you want to just jump right in?
Makes sense to me. Since Mr. Field can't, because
I think that's pretty much-
probably not a bad idea, because
Yeah, we could open the hearing, read the notice, open the hearing, recess the hearing, hear from
I think that's going to be
Mr.
pretty
Field.
much, I mean, I think that's been
So,
satisfied through
yeah.
town council as
Yeah.
well, so.
We're there.
otherwise, Mr. Field would be here for a tax classification for a whole hour probably.
Past my bedtime.
So they want me to read this.
If you would, thank you, Mr. Clerk.
The Board of Selectmen of the Town of Littleton will conduct a public hearing under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 56, on Monday, November 13th, 2017, at 7:15 in the Selectmen's Hearing Room, 103 Littleton Town Offices, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass., on the issue of allocating the local property tax levy among 5 property classes: residential, open space, commercial, industrial, and personal, for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018. Information from the Board of Assessors concerning various policy options will be available for public inspection on Wednesday, November 1st, 2017, in the Selectmen's Office Room 306, Littleton Town Offices, and the town's website, littletonma.org. In preparation for the November 13th classification hearing, the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Assessors will also conduct a public information session on Monday, November 6th. We've already done that in the meeting room. All interested persons and/or parties wishing to be heard will be afforded the opportunity to be heard at both November 16th public information session and the November 13th, 2017 property classification hearing. Littleton Board of Selectmen, Charles DeCoste, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So, the hearing is open, so if I could, need to take a motion to,
Motion to suspend, is that done?
Second.
and second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous, great, thank you.
Find it with Matt.
So the,
Anthony, can you get, go to the printer in the planning board, give the signature pages?
all right, so, on the agenda, under town administrator report, we did have the deed for the Cooper Farm parcel. Just you and I have copies right now?
Yeah, I forwarded Attorney Chris Heap's update by email, but it just came in a few minutes before the meeting, but we can report that we have a final form.
Is it the same one I have here? Do you want me to just sign this one?
You may sign, is that an original copy?
This is one I printed out from my attorney today.
Yep, great, yeah.
If you want to review that and make sure that that's the correct version.
So just for the board, for those that are here, we've been just hearing about some issues relative to construction use and easements and the town's use of the property. And the developer's attorney and our town council have been working through some, I won't call them issues, I'm just kind of making sure that everybody's on the same page. And we had a conference call earlier today with town council, and everything seems great. Everything, there's some developer was willing to accommodate the town on a few items, and one of which was structures on some of the parcels, which the language, I'm gonna mess it up, and it'll be squishy language if I say it. If there were to be, for instance, a structure on parcel A, if there were a recreation facility there and there was a need for some sort of structure that would be appropriate for the use of that particular parcel, and language like that.
It says
recreation or.
municipal structures are related or accessory to the active recreation and agriculture.
So, appreciate your efforts and Jennifer's effort, your attorney's efforts as well. And it's similar to what the trustees were going through with town council. There was a lot of iterations, a lot of back and forth, and I think at the end, it's a nice, clean process, and it'll be good for everybody.
Where did we land on the sign matter?
Would you like me to discuss that now?
Yes.
Would you like to?
Yes, please.
So we've had a couple of different ideas, and we thought the best idea would be, if I can get up and point to your map here.
We have a walking trail coming up on this side and here. We would like to put a bench dedicated to Vin Cooper and a sign with your input depicting what you would like on it, and have like a little park area right here. Or we can put them at the entrance. It's up to you, but I think it would get the best
That's great
view
visibility
and
from the
use
road.
from right there where people will.
Yeah, it's a high
Right.
point on the road.
Right, but your input is certainly will be taken into consideration.
Okay.
What size?
What do you want?
No, I just didn't know whether you had something.
No, we-
I
I have,
Obviously, we don't want this big neon sign then.
No. You know, the park benches have the plaque that are on the back of the bench itself, but we'd also have a standalone monument, some type of sign that would represent him as
Well,
well.
don't get me wrong, I think it's great that
Yeah.
you're gonna have a sign that has Vin Cooper's name on it. I just didn't know whether you actually had something designed already.
We haven't had any time to do that yet. You know, we're looking for some input from you.
So, just to throw something out there, as you're coming up from Nagog on 119, on the left-hand side, there's that Littleton sign. Do you think something like that? You mentioned
Sure.
monument, with the wood carved sign in the middle, something like that, or?
Our entrances are most likely gonna be out of granite or a wall type.
For the development.
Yeah.
So
I have no problem with doing something
that would keep
a little
That
bit
would
more
match.
permanent like that as well.
It sounds nice.
Yeah.
I have two other questions, if
Sure,
because I didn't have a chance to read the new thing. I know that there was a concern about that using the as a septic field, but I guess one of the questions we had is that when we finally turn it into an athletic field, if there was a possibility of having a small septic there.
Yes,
is that
we
possible?
have the ability with your engineering, we just have to be very careful of the water sheathing and the drainage. The soil is very good there. I see no reason why a small leaching field would impact anything for restrooms for a field.
And then the use of the land, how do we solve that?
Rather than what had been proposed was a longer term, but we had negotiated a
shortened it up.
1 year term. So we were thinking it would take us 1 year to mobilize and let's say if we were gonna put a recreational facility on area A, it would easily take us a year to
Right.
plan it, go and get the money for it, and then, break ground. So that doesn't impede our use.
So we have the ability, if you look below parcel A is where the septic system is for the entire project. We have that all in place, sand all loaded, everything ready. We have the components on site and we're starting to erect the septic system in itself. So we have the ability to drive around on the breakout area. We just, if we have to bring in triaxles for the top sand or the loom, we have to be able to get there. And that's why we had that access for a period of a year. We're not gonna stage out on A, we're not gonna disturb the loom, we're not gonna, we have other additional lots in the 55 and over that we can use as a staging area.
Very good. No, we appreciate it. It's a very reasonable agreement that the parties have come to, and we appreciate Matt's effort.
Thank you.
And the existing, the loan that's currently existing on A will
All
remain
yours,
intact?
all yours. All yours. We don't want you mining.
Fair enough.
No?
All right, that being said,
Long motion. So moved.
So move as written?
As
Works for me.
As printed, sure.
Who's got a pen?
Motion.
Second?
okay, it's moving second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Move back.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, if I may, there were
Can you
some
email me a
concerns that I.
We sure
heard
will,
about
yep.
the stream that runs behind it between.
Yeah. Michael will have to
property
come in,
that's
he's not
the
here,
Cooper
but he'll be in,
developing and the part
Wednesday.
that's
Okay, great, so
commercial
we'll hold on to this
I just wanted
okay.
in the office, and we'll circulate this with the select.
Cammy's here to actually address that topic, so since we have.
Great.
Hey, Matt,
Thanks, Matt. Thank you. And
once we get done signing that, I want to know.
circulating the
Ask away.
signature page for the selectmen.
As I said to Mr. Bergman, Michael is out of state until, he'll be back Tuesday evening, he'll come in Wednesday and sign it.
What's on?
And so once we get Michael's signature, then we'll have town council
Yep.
see to its recording. So,
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question while you're here, Matt. Because it was brought to my attention today by a member of the community, I don't think it's associated with you guys,
It's
but I
not
wanted
us.
to touch base while you were here and make sure everything is the way you want it back there.
So, you're referring to the pictures that Miss Kami Bean had?
Yeah, the sediment, she's, and I think I've
Yeah.
seen it a couple times, so.
We are frequented by the Conservation Commission on a regular basis. We have reports on file. I believe Amy was out there a week ago. We have a clean bill of health.
Mhm.
We have grass in place. It's not from us.
Okay.
Do you
I
feel-
didn't say it was from anyone.
I know
so,
that,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I understand, I saw the pictures. We went out and took a picture today.
Yeah,
The
Corey
water
came
is
by the
clean.
house, and I appreciate it, and he was very
No, I-
concerned, yeah.
I have concerns as well as you do.
Yeah.
You know, we've run into our problems, as you know, up there.
Yeah. Do I need to
We're-
introduce myself, or can I show
We're not
my
the culprits this
statement?
time.
Please do.
Yeah, yeah, so Cami Bean, Oak Road. Yeah, in the last week, actually, it's been really bad. So in May, I began to see periodically the stream, which runs behind our house. It actually, the source is behind Kimball's, I guess, and it goes under Great Road at the Toyota plant, goes by Dunkin' Donuts, and it comes back behind the horse farm, along behind our house, running parallel to Oak Road, and then that goes into Neshoba Brook and becomes the Concord River, and it's our watershed, right? So in May, we started to see silt periodically in the water, like really cloudy. I have pictures I can share with you. I reported that to Amy a number of times over the summer when I would see it. Probably the end of July, it seemed to stop. The last week, however, I've been aware of it at least 4 instances, and the water just turned super cloudy. It looks like milk in the stream. It runs for probably, today I noticed it around noon, and around 3 o'clock it was clear again. But it's like a milkshake for a number of hours, and it's not a particular time of day. I mean, there's a lot of times where I'm sure I've not seen it because I've been traveling, at nighttime, who knows what's happening. Sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's the afternoon. Really appreciated Corey stopping by today. He was very concerned. And it looks like the sand from a construction site. That's my uneducated opinion. But it's very concerning, and the fact that we've been seeing it since May back there is, it's just a continued concern. So that's my input.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah.
Any other, I guess we can roll right into public input? Or do we want to jump right into the hearing, yeah, folks?
Could do public input since folks are.
Yeah, so let's people here, so,
Am I done?
Most of that, I wanted to make sure that you got a chance to hear what was going on and comment on it, because I tend to agree, based on what I've seen, I don't think it's you guys.
It's not
Certainly
us,
will
it's not us.
defer to
You're
the
welcome to
conservation
walk
agent
our,
on that matter.
and Tammy, you're also welcome to please come up and walk on that side and take a look around.
Yeah, Corey
and
offered
see.
to walk it with me, and I couldn't today because I had to run out
Yeah.
and take kids.
It-
I do, at what point does that land become town land that we can walk on?
As soon as we get it
get
recorded.
recorded.
As soon as you get Michael.
Well, sex off.
Excellent, all right, get Michael back. We like those woods.
Yeah.
I will, next time it rains, or next time I see it, I'll put on my boots and go see if I can figure out where it's coming from. But,
Yeah.
I mean, you're aware that it's been ongoing, so.
Yeah, but as we've said before, and Amy, I think Amy will agree, we had our issue in the onset with that
Yeah,
deluge, but we've
Sure,
been,
sure.
we have put
Sure.
reports on file and.
yeah. And I know there's been a lot of activity from the horse farm in the last
I have
week or
no
two.
idea.
So, yeah, I've seen a lot from Goldsmith, which have you, yeah, as well, so.
I suspect that's where, but it could be from anywhere along the stream area. When
But you're all
Acton
encouraged
Toyota
to
was
come out.
going in, we saw it years ago, so. same
I'm
kind.
sorry?
When Acton Toyota was getting built years ago, we saw the same stuff happening in the stream.
Through the culvert.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And thanks for working with us.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Have a good evening.
Get Michael back.
Yes, sir.
Open up to public input, anybody that, Chief?
Chief Matt King. I just wanted to say real quick, obviously, from our scruffiness, you notice where the officers in the department are participating in a No Shave November. This
I
year
would
we-
say not all your officers.
Well, it was there Saturday, and I saw him today and was gone, so, but there is a twist this year, there's the chief challenge, which I gave them. Last year, they donated $1,000 to the Park and Rec Department. The chief challenge is this year, for everything $500 over that, I'll extend it by a month, if they can keep their neatly trimmed facial hair on board. But we'll see if they can make the challenge or not, up until summer uniforms come back, and then they all will disappear. They're gonna pick a couple other charities in town. The charity they normally utilize first will be the Park and Rec for the children's gifts and things of that nature. And they've got a couple others in mind, there's youth in town who is trying to get a service dog, and a couple others that they're looking at. So just wanna let everyone know, there is a GoFundMe page for the union on No Shave November. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sanders? Oh, you just let me know that he had his hand up?
Yeah, this lady here had a hand up, so I was pointing to the fact that.
Directing traffic back there for us, thank you. Anybody else? All right, how about member updates? Mr. Knox, you wanna get us kicked off with member updates?
I think Jen already mentioned that Cindy and I were able to participate, and I read after bedtime at the library. It was quite an event. I think they have 50 different registered kids that came and participated in a number of different programs that were going on, so it's good to do.
Great, thank you.
Nothing retrospective, but I think the First Robotics Pasta dinner is tomorrow night. Chuck's just checking them off the list.
See, I didn't use it this time.
I know. But that is tomorrow night. I don't have my notes with me at the exact time.
6 to 8.
6 to 8 at the middle school?
Middle school.
Cafeteria? Very good.
5 to 7.
Ms. Napple?
Mr. Chair, so I just wanted to mention the Hope for Holte fundraiser that took place this weekend. Chuck, I'm sorry. The chairman, Chuck DeCos, was there along with Chase, was attended as well, and that was a great event. I just talk about the community coming together to support one of our own. That was probably the most impressive fundraiser I've seen at the Billiards Cafe, and just wanted to mention Calvin Moore and the Billiards Cafe. He's always been very generous with our community, and again, he showed that again this past weekend. And also, just story time at the Reuben Hoare Library was really fun. I had 3 little 4-year-old boys that I read to, and I don't know who picked the books, but the books that were picked for me were very thoughtful, because they dealt with service men and women, mothers and dads that go overseas, and explaining to the kids, what that means from a child's perspective. So that was very thoughtful book selection, so I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. In light of Veterans Day being on Saturday,
Right.
that's fantastic, yeah. So, obviously, a huge thank you to all veterans. This past weekend, we celebrated Veterans Day, and I think there was a number of different celebrations throughout the community. Since you guys took a couple of my events, cross-country team is league champions again, so they celebrated that on Saturday. They won their league. The field hockey team unfortunately got knocked out, but they had a great season, and they look good for the future. The football team won on Saturday. They beat St. Peter Marion at Doyle Field in Leominster 30-14, and punched their ticket back to Gillette. So they'll be going back to Gillette on either December 1st or December 2nd. It may in fact be a Friday night game this year. So Mr. Kraft, there's 8 divisional games or state championships this year, where there's always been 6 in the past, and Mr. Kraft has extended the field to be used on Friday night. So there'll be 2 games on Friday night, 6 on Saturday, as they have been historically. So after the semifinal games this weekend, which Littleton miraculously got a bye this year, which is great. Get some kids that are dinged up can heal. We'll find out next weekend what time they play. So it's a great event for Littletonians to get out to. Also, the cheer team on Sunday, I believe they competed. Was it Sunday? They competed, and they came in second in the regionals. So congratulations to them as well. All right. Let's get back into our property tax classification hearing, if we can, down to business here. All right, so consider the hearing to be open, reopened, and so we have an opportunity through Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 56, to establish a residential factor and essentially helps to set the tax rate for the town. So that's, we had the informational session last week, and Fred and Kathy came out and helped us out a lot. Steve did a presentation, helped us out. So if you were unable to, or maybe you did pay attention to that and you've got questions tonight, we'll do some deliberating about that and try to determine what we feel is best for our factor. That's what we're voting on, right, the residential factor? So I'll open it up to members of the board first, and then once we have some discussion, I'll also open it up for public input. And by all means, those who put all their time and effort into this, if you have anything to add at any time, by all means, help me out.
And we had received from the finance team some sample options. It's not an exhaustive list, but at least as a means of pointing at what sorts of policy choices the Board of Selectmen have, and they're represented in this slide, which maybe somebody could walk us through what our options are. Bless you.
Thank you.
The nice part about this slide, and I think Fred, you put a lot of time into this one, I appreciate it. It actually lays out what based upon an average assessed value of a home, or a commercial property, what the change would be based upon the decision that we make tonight, what the financial impact would be for that tax bill, for that taxpayer. So I appreciate this, for me, again, gives me some clarity and helps me to better understand the impact of the decision that we're gonna make tonight. Any of you feel as though there's anything you wanna add, offer, direct? No? All right. Any comments, questions, or any input? Anybody have any jumping off points for us?
Just first, I just want to thank the Board of Assessors. This is extensive information that you gave us, deeply appreciated, all broken down, even all the different factors that, what the review is all about. And I'll start off, I think, I know last year we went down a little bit with the commercial property, will have hardly any effect on the residential side. And we're benefiting this year again. This would be a year, first, in my opinion, to drop a little bit, because we might have to go back up in the future. So I would consider either keeping the residential the same, or having it go up by 3 cents. And I'm not even looking at the chart he gave, I'm looking at, I don't know, the next last page, factor 1.370. It's not on that page, it's on the, I'll call it.
Big one?
Yeah.
Okay. 1.370.
In that case, you have a difference from this year of 3 cents for residential, but for the first time in a long time, it would actually drop the commercial by almost $1. If I can read it. Okay, fine. at 27.
Which option, is that an option number?
Option 4.
CIP factor, is that what you're looking at, Joe, the CIP factor 1.370?
Yeah,
Which would be a residential factor of 0.89401.
yes,
Say that again?
it's right here.
Residential factor would be 0.89401.
It's on,
They're off their chart keys.
It's not on this chart.
They're not on
We're on
this
the big
chart.
one.
Get another number.
You're on a different number.
So to Joe's point, the assessors put together a comprehensive chart that walked us through the residential factor by, I guess, 100th. Step by step. The CIP factor by $25,000.
So there we would be talking about the residential change would be 4.43, the CIP change would be 3.52, is that right?
I can blow it up again.
Where is he looking?
So he's looking at 370. There's a residential factor of
Yeah.
8941, so the residential share would be there.
Oh, let me
18,
say in that
18.
area.
Okay.
The residential rate in Mr. Knox's scenario would be $18.18. The commercial rate would be $27.86. The average, let's see, the average change in residential based upon a
That's it.
$418,000 home would be $320.69. The average change in the commercial would be $528.03. So it'd be a residential change of 4.43%, residential change of 3.52%.
And that's a suggestion, if, just to stay in that area.
Just a jumping off point, we have to start somewhere, right? So that would end up being somewhere between 6 and 7, if I'm reading this correct, as far as the suggested, or the samples
That's what I'm trying to figure
that we
out,
put in front of
okay.
us?
No, the opposite end. It'd be somewhere between 2 and 3.
1.3.
Is that right, Steve? Somewhere between 2 and 3?
Yeah, I'm sorry, right. It's my favorite night of the year.
I'll tell you,
My numbers are really small, which helps.
my perspective, I think, is a little bit different than Joe's. As far as where I would be most interested in jumping off is probably an equal percent change, such that we move the residential and the commercial up at equal rates. And the reason for that is that last year, and I believe that the year before, but hopefully you guys will correct me if I'm wrong, the residential went up substantially more than the CIP rate went up. And so if we come back to equalizing those this year, we're still holding that relative change of the last couple of years steady, while providing equity that we haven't provided in the last years between the rate increases, between residential and commercial.
All right, so, sorry, I'm just trying to keep the math straight here, so 29,401, Joe, right? 0.89481. Which gives us a, 370 gives us a residential rate of 1818. That's what I stated, right? In 2786?
Yeah.
18, 27, 86. So in effect, the rate goes up by a couple cents, right? We're at 1816 now.
Just as a word of caution, I would not focus so much on the rate, because once it gets finalized by DOR, it could change by a penny.
Got it.
So just focus on the increase, the average increase, or,
The average increase.
The dollar change.
Impact to.
yeah, the dollar tax.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so the impact for that change would be 322.69 for the residential. 52803, commercial.
Okay, is that the one you, mine,
That's the one that you suggested.
Yeah, it shows.
all this thing up again?
Which options?
You gotta go upstairs.
What? Okay, 322, right? 322.69 and 528.
Is it 528?
Yeah, it's 528 for
Okay.
commercial, yeah.
All right.
All right, so there's a jumping off point.
Right. So I agree with Chase's proposal for option number 4, the equal percentage. I just think it's more balanced and maybe a fairer option.
Well, the dollar change is almost double.
The dollar change goes from, and the CIP goes from 528 to 623. In the residential, it would drop about $20 from 322 to 302.
I'm talking about the difference between the two. The CIP is paid at 623.
So your point, Joe, is that the change is $300 for residential, over $600 for commercial.
Commercial.
So it's, they're paying, their change is double.
Oh, right, in absolute dollars.
Right.
Yes.
Right, no relative, right. Okay.
Last year, we increased the residential more than the CIP as a percentage. The year before, did we also increase the residential more than the CIP as a percentage?
Thanks, Nick.
So last year, Steve, looking at the samples, last year's residential shift is represented by number 6? 5. 5, okay. I'm pointing at 5, my eyes see 6. But there's a 6 underneath that one, so now I understand. Okay, so that was 3.91 was the percent change for residential, 4.64 was the commercial change. Right? On 5.
So to answer Chase's question, so last year, residential went up 4.14%, commercial went up 3.69. The year before, residential went up 4.15, commercial went up 0.97.
Commercial went up what?
0.97.
All right, so then number 5 isn't last year. Or did the change from the DOR? So 5 is not last year's?
5 is last year's residential factor that was voted. Okay, but
That's
because the
factor.
values have changed.
All right, I'm with
all
you
the
now.
other-
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, all right. All right, so that was the .889 factor. Okay. 4.14 last year. So if we, are you able to, no, you're on the laptop. I just didn't know if we could calculate, so well, I can do it right here, right? Hit the percent. So 1.37 is a residential change of 4.08, all right, no. 4.43 and a CIP change of 3.52. Joe, am I looking at that correctly? For the 1.37 as proposed, 4.43 would be the residential change, 3.52 would be the CIP change.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, equal percentages, looking at 4.14 and 4.15. Financial impact is $302 to the residential, $623 to the CIP. So I guess at the end of the day, we're looking at where do we want to, if we're looking at the dollar change to either the residential or the CIP, which wallet is going to be impacted the most? The residential wallet or the commercial wallet? At the end of the day, that's what we're looking at, right?
Yeah, I mean,
You have to pay both wallets. So 3.7, 443, and 352. Do we, I mean, is there anybody want to die on the hill for either of their causes here? Whether it be
I mean, I will make the argument that if we were to, even if we were to adopt an equal percentage this year, that means over the last 3 years, residential rates would have gone up almost 13%. Whereas commercial rates would have gone up about 9%. And that's adopting equal percentage this year. If we were to adopt something that brings us closer to, I mean, not a lot, but closer to a single tax rate, we're looking at a residential increase over the last 3 years of 13.2% and a commercial increase of 8.5% to 9%. So,
But it
that
doesn't-
farther, brings them farther apart.
it doesn't tell the story about total money, though.
It doesn't, you're right.
No, right.
Absolutely, if you look at total dollars,
So on a $7,600 tax bill, a dollar change of, if we're looking at equal, a $7,600 tax bill, a dollar change of $302. On a commercial bill of 15,600, it's 16,623 rather. So,
but that is also commensurate with an increase
assessment.
in assessment. There's something behind that, it's not just pure dollars out of nowhere.
Right, right. Look up every once in a while to see if there's any lifelines.
Right.
I'm not arguing against equal percentage, as long as, I just don't want to see things skyrocket in the commercial
Well,
end.
that's actually why I
So-
like the equal percentage, because I think if I understand these numbers correctly, it still gives us room to move on both the commercial and the residential in the future. You know, it doesn't sacrifice one at the expense of the other.
And it does lower both tax rates for
The actual dollar rate,
yeah.
yeah, by a couple pennies each side, right?
No, it's more than a couple pennies on
It's
the,
3 cents on the residential, and it's,
it's almost,
what are we at, 20,
There is something sort of nice about that.
what's the commercial rate right now? 28,
28.37.
30,
37.
37?
where are we?
So if we went with an equal percentage, we would be dropping it from 28.37 to 28.03. So any increase there, in fact, more, let me say it this way, any increase would be then due to increased value, not increased rate. So yes, if we went with an equal percentage, that the CIP change would be $600 and some dollars.
Right.
But that's less than if we had just kept that rate identical.
Yeah, and I think that
It's 30 cents less for the commercial, so that's a difference from last year.
right, 30 cents lower rate and a 3 cent lower rate for the residential.
Whereas if we kept the 28.37 rate, we would be looking at an average commercial increase of $812. The fact that we're considering even a 28.03 rate means that the average commercial is incurring $623. So we're looking at almost a $200 delta there.
Mhm. So, coming in, the two that I was wrestling with myself was number 5 and number 6 as far as the samples were concerned. And I was weighing much more heavily on residential than I was on commercial.
Mhm.
And I think that I could be, I gotta be swayed to go with equal percentage. Just looking at the impact, talking $17 impact on the commercial. And there is a $70, $72 delta for the commercial. I think I just misspoke. The first one was the residential, $17 delta on the residential from 4 to 5.
Mhm. And five would achieve that same decrease of the base rate for both
Both parties.
the average residential and the average commercial.
Right. Now, what, if one of you could just speak to, there's limits as to what we can do any given year. And maybe one of you could just kind of revisit that?
The CIP factor,
Yeah.
okay, cannot go beyond 1.5. That's the maximum shift.
Right.
And what we talked about in the last meeting with the new projects that are in the pipeline, we have a higher percentage of residential class housing coming online than we do commercial next year. So just as, unless something major changes, next year, the same factor, whatever you vote tonight, say you voted, factor 4, which is the equal percentage, that would put you at 1.37816. By doing nothing, you're probably gonna be at 1.39, as an example, next year in the same situation, because values are gonna shift to the residential class. So you're gonna climb closer to that 150, just, going out the gate. So you're gonna lose some flexibility in moving. The danger is the closer we get to 150, any new growth that comes in, or the 2.5% can now not be borne by the commercial class. And the 2.5% plus any new growth completely gets borne by the residential class. So you always want to kind of flirt with that line and give yourself enough room, should values change, that you're not pushed against that 150 unnecessarily, so.
And Chuck, that was why I favored option 4, the equal percentage, because it gives us a touch more
Little bit of
room
wiggle.
going forward.
Yeah.
That's,
With what we see in the pipeline,
And I think you guys made us aware of that last week. As far as permits that are pulled and what we speculate.
gives us a useful rhetorical tool of being able to, not just say, but substantively decrease the rates for both classes. I think
Equal
a lot of
percentage.
equal percentage gives us that ability. Gives us some flexibility going forward. In terms of the rate reduction, there's a bigger rate reduction on the commercial side than on the residential side. Now, commercial still is bearing more of the increase
Right.
because of our fundamental choice to go with split tax rates.
Right. Input, thoughts, concerns?
This is the most fun part of the year.
Yeah. I just think one of my concerns is the commercial growth compared to the residential growth in town presently as we stand, with the number of building permits for residential development that are getting issued compared to the commercial side. And that's my biggest concern. Thank goodness we have the point. I think that's really had a huge impact on our economy that
Sure.
people don't realize. So as far as concern goes, looking down the road, I think the new growth estimates that were provided to us by Steve and Bonnie were really insightful. If you look at the percentage difference going forward through fiscal year 2020, 2021, I think we really need to figure out how how to balance out our residential and commercial growth going forward. So that's, I think it's something, as a board, maybe we need to talk about and focus on.
Okay. So what, based on that, are you looking more at taking what Bonnie's wanting there, or?
Yeah.
So what,
Right.
based on the samples, are you leaning towards number 4, equal percentage?
I am
Yeah.
leaning towards that. I
Versus the last residential shift, or levy percentage? Well, don't really need to belabor this. We're talking a difference of, if we go with the last residential shift, so that, I'm more comfortable with the last residential shift. It's a $285 impact to the average residence, a $695 impact to the commercial. If we're looking at the equal percentage, you're talking about a $302 or $17 increase to the residential over the last residential shift, or $623 to commercial, which is $72 less for the commercial. Moving up towards that 1.37. I can't read my own writing, but we're looking at $322.69 to residential, $528.03 to commercial if we were to go that route. I mean, if we've got consensus on equal percentage, I'll go that way. I came in with number 5 and number 6 kind of circled as where I was leaning. But if we feel comfortable as a board, and everybody can live with the equal percentage, and,
I can go equal percentage.
it's kind of your line in the sand.
Yeah, well, the first one I did, so so I've been told it.
I'll meet you there. I mean,
But
I'm just on the other side of that.
and I very much presented equal percentage not as a negotiating tactic so that we end up in the middle. Equal percentage is really, where
It leaves us,
on land.
I think it leaves us in a relatively safe spot, based on the information that we've gotten about future development as well.
Right, because Bonnie, what did you say if we do nothing with the equal percentage? If nothing changes from next year, that would go up to,
Whatever you do now,
right,
the CIP factor will slide towards 150 next year.
Right.
Based on what's coming on the pipeline.
right. But I guess my question is, how much will it slide? We don't know.
It just depends on the values.
Right.
And
Will.
it will slide less next year than it would the year after that based on current
Trends?
expectations for commercial development. Is
Correct,
that
unless something
correct?
new comes on.
Okay.
What was the slide this year, this
Oh,
past year?
I won't know what I think last year was, 140, what was that?
141?
What they chose last year?
Yeah.
No, 139 is what we chose last year.
139. So your 139, because we had a lot of commercial come on, switched to 138,
503.
1385, oh great.
Okay.
Next year with what we see coming on, it will
be the other way.
slide the other way.
All right.
But going with the equal percentage, we would actually be going with a lower CIP factor this year than we did last year.
Right, and it leaves you more room than going with option 5 or 6.
It's almost a hedge.
Right, okay,
You're comfortable with that?
yeah.
I mean, let's beat the dead horse a little.
No, I just want to see if anybody has any input. Please.
George Sanders, 672 Grave Road. I mean, all this talking that y'all been doing up there, it's sort of kind of hard to go along with what is the rate that you're talking about, the real dollar rate that you're talking about, because I can imagine people at home, if they're watching this, they don't know what the tax rate is or what you up there talking about, because you're throwing all these factors in here.
Yeah.
and you're not really saying exactly what it is. I'd like to know, and you should be putting the information to us based on what we are paying rate today
Okay.
and what the rate will be that you're considering. What's the difference?
Fred, you want to take it?
If I could just interject for a second, because in the years that I've been doing this, we've spoken more about the tax rate tonight than in all those 19 years before. The tax rate's irrelevant in this matter. What's we're functioning on is how much of the residential burden we're gonna shift to, and I know you understand this, but anybody else listening or hasn't been through these meetings wouldn't. We're looking at how much of the residential burden, if any, we're going to shift to the commercial class, and going from a flat, a single rate where there's none shifted to that 1.5%. And the rate just falls out of what you decide to shift.
Right.
So when we talk about the rate going down, that sounds good, but you don't want people walking away with that, because they'll say, oh, the tax rate dropped, all right, and they're gonna get their tax bill, and they
No,
won't
it's
be
good
calling any of you guys, so,
Oh, yes, they will.
Oh, they'll call us.
eventually, that will be after we duck them. So I just wanted to sort of get to that it's more, the amount that we're gonna be, that the tax levy is going to be was voted on at town meeting. And now we're just figuring out how we're divvying up that pie.
Right.
And that's sort of where we should be jumping off tonight.
And given the estimates that we have in front of us, if we look at these example options, we do have a residential and commercial industrial rates. Let's take the equal percentage as a case study right now. We're talking about a residential rate of 1813, hypothetically based on this. How much uncertainty do you think there is in that residential rate and that commercial rate as presented up here?
I ran the numbers through the state's worksheet before I came down, and it's a penny off on the residential rate, and the commercial looks okay. But again, that could,
It could change.
when they go through and they start approving it, things can change. And that's why they ask you to vote the factor, not the rate.
But going back to what George said, with the person that watching on TV, I think even though we're not talking about tax rates, but to let people know, like, we were at 1815 for residential last year, and going by what we're doing here is 1813. And commercial was 2837, commercial would be 2803, so I know that's probably what people want to.
So, I don't disagree with you, Joe, but the other thing that, to reiterate what Fred said, the dollar change, and maybe this will answer Mr. Sanders' question as well, the dollar change for the residential based upon the average household would be $302 to the average taxpayer. And for the CIP, residential taxpayer, I apologize, for the commercial, it would be an impact of $623. So it would be an increase, the rate goes down, but the increase would be $302 and $623, residential and commercial. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I get that. I get what you're saying here. I understand what you're talking about here. But I don't think a lot of other people understand, because they know how much I'm gonna pay per thousand. And that is where I was focusing on, that you should be saying, you're paying this now, and the rate would be this here, as he's saying, being more equal to what the commercial on the percentage was there. That would, tell them what they're paying now. So if I'm paying 18.15, and it's gonna go down 3 cents, if I understand that may be a penny difference here. So, I understand that, and they understand that. They say, well, I'm paying 2 cents less. Well, that's a whole lot, But, yeah, I understand the levy is approved at a certain amount. Now you got to find out who's gonna divide up and who's gonna pay to get that amount.
And then the assessed value factors into that.
Right.
So, it's clear as mud. No, so hopefully people do understand that we are talking about the rate, and 1816 was the rate last year, and if we went with this rate, it would be 1813. 2837 was the rate last year, and if we went with this, it would be 2803. But again, those we're basing this on the factor. What percentage of the full piece of the pie will the residential taxpayers be responsible for? And that's how that's kind of cut up. and then everything else is, the
And
burden
even if
lies
there-
upon the commercial.
And even if there's a penny or two change in the rate, the values on which it's based, we're seeing are going up. I mean, the average single-family property is going from $401,000 to $418,000. So that's applied to whatever the new tax rate is.
I think that's a really important point, Keith, that there will be a tax increase next year, but the tax increase is based on the increase in value, not the increase in the rate that is being levied
So, yeah,
against that
the
value.
rate is just a statistic, it's a
Well,
mathematical formula. It's the values and it's what the levy is at town, the spending at town meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Keith, but the increase isn't due to the change in their property value. The increase is due to the amount that we're levying. And so, again, the tax rate's irrelevant. The example I always give is if we levy the same amount and we double your value, you're paying the same amount you did the year before, because it's just your percentage of the pie. So that increase, there are some fluctuations due to changes in value, but the majority of the increase in property taxes overall are reflective of how much we're raising to levy, what we're spending as a town. And then your value, and it's gonna move a little bit, you're not gonna see a 10% change in value, but that's gonna affect your tax bill specifically, but everybody's gonna go up as long as we spend more money.
It's what we spend at town meeting.
All right, so I think we're,
And it's probably, on that matter, I think it's probably worth reminding folks that as the starting point, that whatever it is we're setting, it's 19 cents per thousand below what it would have been because we have applied funds towards the excluded debt. So, and that's been a conscious effort. This is now the second year in a row where we've applied funds to reduce what the tax bill would have otherwise been.
By 19 cents, that's
significant.
it is.
And there's plenty of communities that don't have the ability to pay down that excluded debt. Mr. Sanders, please.
George Sanders, 672 Great Road. When will Logan be doing the next evaluation of the property?
Next assessment is due 21
21, but we do
interim.
interim adjustments. I mean, everything's looked at each year, so in a sense, it is a revaluation, but a certification year is 20.
So to get that, so the next certified assessment by the town is in 2021, and then it's now out to every 5 years,
It's every 5 years.
but there are some interim adjustments that are made
Yes.
ongoing.
Right, well, back in the day, it was every 3 years because you didn't do interim adjustments.
Right.
So the state would come in and certify your values. Now, if we were to do that now, and you see these places where there's 20 or 30% property value increases over 5 years, people would die when they got their value because all of a sudden you jump. So we've been doing interim adjustments for, 7, 8 years now? I forget whenever the Hopkinton bill was passed, which allowed you to do that, so. I'd be stunned if we weren't adjusting all of the classes each year as we go along.
Anybody else have any thoughts, questions relative to this? All right, I'll take a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we are closed. So I think it sounds like we have a consensus at 80%. Do we have further deliberation around that?
On that, yes, although I don't think we've specifically made a decision regarding the residential exemption or the small business exemption.
Thank you for that. All right.
Something we normally don't do, right?
Right. And I'm not particularly inclined to pursue either of those, but it is something that we have to
Right, as part of the,
opine on.
all right, anybody want to jump off?
Oh, this is the form of the residential. What's the last piece of the proposed motion is to identify X dollars in unused property tax levy capacity?
The number is $2.74.
On the equal percentage option.
So the proposed motions could be as presented here. That's the residential factor for option 4. And
Good,
if you
thanks.
do not adopt those,
Here I am sketching down all these numbers,
I'm making it all
trying not
up
to
here.
screw it up.
Just tell me you already have it, huh?
I just plugged it in. So
All right, I'll move.
Guy gets hit in the head and all of a sudden he's just like,
instant recall.
On a motion?
please.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 56, as follows relative to the fiscal year 2018 property tax. To establish a residential factor of 0.891668, not to adopt a residential exemption, not to adopt a small business exemption, to identify $2.74 in unused property tax levy capacity.
Motion's been made,
Second?
seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Very good. Bonnie will be back in
Go hit the
5
key.
minutes with
I gotta
the paperwork to sign. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody, for your input.
Right.
Thank you
Keith,
very
that
much
was the
for-
most impressive thing I've seen, is having that up there that quickly.
Oh, good, very good.
Pretty good.
Keep them around for another couple months.
What have you done if you come up with a different thing though?
Oh, boy.
Probably had all.
You had them all programmed in?
I'm sure he did.
Well, Bonnie gave me the.
Cheat sheet?
The cheat sheet, of depending upon which option you
So
pick.
she knew where we were
and I-
going?
Yeah, well, she could tell
Shoulders of giants, yeah.
from the 10 options that were listed, and she had calculated what the amount would be, so I just had to plug it
Excellent.
What time is it to Evan in the Square?
All right, so that, actually, the
in.
licensing.
Yeah, it's not a hearing, so, and we're at that
Right,
hour.
we'd already-
Yeah, 8:15.
Do we have to close it?
You here for the Tavern on the Square?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
great.
not, it's not a hearing. but-
It's not a hearing, but you're welcome to come up.
What?
We did close it.
We did, okay, sorry.
If you want to pull a chair up and sit up here, whatever you're most comfortable with.
Thank you. I'm Stephanie Boudreau here for Tavern on the Square. We are seeking approval of a pledge of a liquor license. Tavern on the Square has several restaurants. They entered into a large refinance with Northern Bank and Trust, and as part of that refinance, all of the taverns, they're seeking to pledge all of their licenses to Northern Bank. Some of the towns permit exactly as collateral. Some of the towns actually don't have a way to permit this to happen, but most of the towns, we have had no problem, so just seeking approval.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I just get our name again for the record?
Sure, it's Stephanie Boudreau,
Thank you. B-O-U-D-R-E-A-U.
B-O-U-D-R-E-A-U.
Thank you.
Lot of vowels.
We. Okay, so I don't know whether or not we do well for pledges.
Well-
We were a little puzzled.
Yeah,
We had this
I mean,
last Monday and we were all
Yeah,
kind of.
I think it's been infrequent if we've done them, but the board is allowed to do it under ABCC procedures. We don't have any local procedures that say we can or cannot, but I think that because it was such an unusual request and we haven't had one that the board has discussed in a while, we just wanted to understand what does it mean that you're pledging the license? Does that mean, a tavern goes belly up, then there's some new licensee that also, gives bank loans?
Defaults
Well-
directly to Northern Bank and Trust?
Say it again?
Does the license automatically?
The
default to
license
Northern
would
Bank?
go to Northern Bank and Trust, who couldn't operate under the license, would have to go through the same procedure that you would have to go, you would have
They would
to
have- they would have
do
the
the
right
same
to.
application. What would happen is they would try to sell the license or transfer the license, find a buyer for the restaurant, or, that's normally how it would happen. Before a default of this size, you would try to get out from under it.
Okay.
So, but nobody could just come in and operate without going through all of the standard procedures that the town requires and that ABCC requires.
I just find it strange. How do we pledge a license that we have control over to a bank?
We're not pledging it, they are.
They're pledging the license.
We're allowing them
It requires the approval of the local licensing authority and the ABCC, from what I
Yes.
understand. There's a ABCC form that we would fill out, goes to Boston for their approval. But what it is, it sounds like it's a condition for your bank loan, that the bank wanted to acquire an asset that would allow them to, recoup on their investment somehow, as opposed to, say, the license being surrendered or something. If a licensee went out of business and they just surrendered the license, then the bank that loaned them the money isn't standing in the.
Especially where the value in
in the
these kind
way,
of
it's
the value of the
assets, the value
establishment.
is the license. So,
But help me understand, if it's being held as collateral, obviously it has value, but if they can't do anything with it, then where is the value?
He's got a right to it.
By
so
being
that's something.
able to find a buyer.
Yeah, they
For
could
the
sell it.
business, who could, and then the buyer of the business would be the entity that we would be, that would be in front of us on a request to transfer the license from A to B.
so any kind of sale, let's say there was a default, and then the bank took it over, and then the bank went to sell, any kind of sale, from a buyer's perspective, would be subject to the approval of the town and the state.
Okay, so in the absence of the approval of this license as collateral, what would happen to the license if Tavern and Square went belly up? Come back to the town and
Forfeited.
first in line would be able to apply, or we may have multiple applications for it, or whatever, what?
I think it would be forfeited.
Okay, so it'd be forfeited back to the
Yeah.
town.
Yeah.
So what, struggling with the value.
It sounds like it increases the bank's likelihood of ever getting paid as some.
Well, it's like collateral, it's like any kind of collateral, right? So for the bank, it has a lot of value, because this is where the real asset of the establishment is.
But it has no value in the sense that it still needs to be approved
But if they didn't
going
have
forward
it,
for the next purchaser.
right, but
Which would be the same as if it was forfeited, they would come in and apply for the license, no?
the bank? Or, no, well, then the bank wouldn't have the asset to transfer. So it has a lot of value to the bank.
To sell a restaurant with a liquor license has a lot higher value than a restaurant without a liquor license. So it really has no impact on us, because we still have a say in who gets that next liquor license in the event that the tavern defaults on the loan.
That's right, you can say no to any buyer, just like you would say no, just like you could say no. It doesn't impose any additional obligation on the town. It just is it really is for the benefit of the bank and the restaurant that's operating in your town.
I guess I'm trying to understand this. The bank would then sell that license, is that what, say the tavern went under? The bank would then try to sell that license?
Probably try to sell the whole restaurant.
Yeah, they would have would the asset be the license and the
And the
property,
business,
and the
that's right.
business,
I mean,
yeah.
it's collateralized, the loan, which is a $4 million and a $7 million note, is cross-collateralized over all of the establishment's assets. And there's several taverns, and there's several licenses, and the bank wants just collateral in everything to secure the repayment.
And the license is considered one of their assets.
And the license is, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So it has all equipment, all furniture, all everything. The restaurants don't own the real estate, so this is the largest asset of the restaurants.
Okay. You guys got a couple of hands up, so I just
Yeah,
want you guys,
good.
okay. Chief?
Just to try and simplify it, just to give you, for instance, El Forno's just, the license stayed with Virginia Woods until she sold it to El Forno. All you're doing is transferring the control of this license to the bank. If Tavern on the Square goes on, now the bank has a saleable item, just like Virginia Wood had a saleable item to El Forno coming in. When Burns Package Store went out up by Donlands, they sold the license, if you remember, to Donlands. They have a saleable item. All Tavern is doing is transferring their control over, if Tavern was to disappear, the bank has a piece of collateral to sell. Just like those people who had the licenses, sold their licenses to other entities. You then had to approve they still had to go through the same process at that point of getting all your approvals for those people to take it. That's really what you're doing here, it's no
And
difference.
Virginia owned the property, is that right?
Yes, she did.
But she had a previous tenant.
Which was her husband. Her ex-husband. Yeah, she had a previous tenant also.
Who surrendered her license when she left.
Back to her.
Yeah, no, back to us.
Was it?
Yeah.
So I had a couple of hands up, I'm not sure who had their hand up first. Robbie.
Rob Houston, Meeting House Road. I guess the only thing I see is, I assume that the process is different between transferring a liquor license or, a tavern license versus applying for a new one, right? So.
That's my point, Rob, that
No,
otherwise there's no value to the
There must
collateral.
be something different.
Well, the
in that process.
difference is the quota. The difference is that there is a finite number of liquor
There you go.
licenses.
So once it gets surrendered, it's
Right,
fair game
these are
versus
these are
it's
taxi
controlled
medallions
by somebody.
in New York City.
That answers
These are
the question of the
valuable
value.
commodities, so,
If it's infinite, then it doesn't matter.
right.
It's watered down.
All right.
And perhaps by the time, if the license were
All right.
surrendered or whatever, there might not be another available license. So that's where the value comes.
And yet the town maintains control,
Over the approval.
just like in any sale.
Mr. Sanders.
George Sanders, 672 Great Road. By the bank having collateral on everything they possibly can, means that they have a better opportunity to maybe find somebody to buy it by having this liquor license. But my question is this: if they go belly up and the license is due for renewal, does the bank pay the renewal fee? What happens at that point?
Yes, the bank is obligated to the same standard as the owner would be if there is, or the holder would be if there was no buyer yet. Yes, so the bank would acquire all of the rights and obligations that the establishment had.
And we got a $200 check out of the application.
I can give you another one if you want.
That'll get it done?
That was another one.
Oh, that mic's not on.
Just kidding.
Don't worry about it.
Really a joke.
I appreciate you indulging
Okay.
questions.
Just got the Attorney General on speed dial.
The Alcohol Beverage Commission.
Well, and just in terms of what's from the town's perspective, that we benefit because there's a likelihood that there will be a real live establishment to, sooner rather than later, to step into the shoes of the establishment that is no longer operating. And it's not gonna be, and whatever we do locally is still subject to the approval of the ABCC, who's extremely, I mean, we've had some of our recent applications spend a considerable amount of time at the ABC to make sure that they were completely in order.
Right.
And from the state's perspective. So it's not a, I think we can be that much more confident that having this in place will mean that if there is a next entity in place, it will be a going concern.
I think the other benefit here is that they've been a good corporate citizen. They've, they're looking to maybe grow their business, refinance so they can get lower rates, so they can, I'm not exactly sure, but we want them there for the long haul. I mean, anytime you go in there, seems to be doing quite well. Hopefully, it continues to do quite well. And it just gives, them the message that we like having them in town, and if we can help them out by doing this, I think it's a good gesture, and I can't foresee any risk. I think there's actually some protections to us by helping them out here.
Right. For
That
our
being
local
said-
business.
Exactly. That being said.
No, I'm good with it.
Okay.
I mostly just need to understand the structure.
Perfect. I will entertain a motion then.
Okay. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, to approve the request of Tavern in the Square, Littleton LLC, Renato Valentum, manager, DBA Tavern in the Square, for 810 Constitution Avenue to amend its all-alcoholic restaurant license by a pledge of collateral to Northern Bank and Trust Company, subject to further approval by the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Very much.
Alrighty.
Okay. Item number 6, actually on track here. Thanks, Rob. Board of Selectmen goal updates. You guys have a talk for us on Narcan, the opioid/Narcan, and boards and committees. You might have to carry the one of the committees things, or we can postpone to the next meeting when Paul's available.
I think we're good. He actually shot me a message. I think we can move forward with that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
So, let's see. So Chase and Cindy are the champions for the opioid awareness, and there's been a lot of action, you guys have kept a lot of balls in the air relative to this goal. And as part of the outreach, prepared a letter and.
So I think what we're looking for with respect to the letter is the board's approval. Pending approval, we'll print it up in next weekend, or next meeting, sign it. If anyone has commentary on language, then we'll hear that now. Otherwise, I think we probably need a motion to finalize that letter and sign it next meeting.
Okay. I appreciate all the time and effort you guys put into this. I know there's been a couple of iterations of that letter, so I'm comfortable with what you guys have put forward. Joe?
I'm fine with it.
So, you get that baby printed out, Keith, on BOS letterhead, Littleton letterhead?
We shall.
So we can,
And I think our intent was to send a letter each individually to each of our state rep and state senator, federal rep, and 2 senators and Governor Baker.
Great. All right, cool. Let's do that. Can make that happen.
Okay, great.
So, as far as there's a lot of information there, a lot of details about different responders, different resources, just in the packet as a whole. So, I don't know if you guys want to speak to any of
Is
that.
this, oh, are you talking about the website? The
Yeah, the
proposed?
COIN and local support groups.
Yeah.
Right, right. So these are all, there's a lot of great information on the state website that I pulled from that. The good, the first responders, obviously. One of the things that I did pull from the state website was the Good Samaritan law, because that's something that Chase and I have heard time and time again with people that we've met with, is a lot of these, and especially, one of the things that came forward with the Clay Soper event as well is call 911. And I think a lot of people forget that, and especially since now with the Good Samaritan law, no one's going to be charged with possession of a controlled substance, in the event that they do. The other information here was really trying to focus on local resources, and a lot of this information we received from meeting with Deputy Chief Patterson and Chief Wodzinski. You met Donna and Janessa, People Against Substance Abuse, COIN, the Northwest Middlesex Community Outreach Program. The Littleton Police Department works closely with that organization. Spectrum Services, we included on here, and it was interesting because I actually received, actually it wasn't Spectrum, so never mind what I was just going to say. So Spectrum Services I put on here. I like this Learn to Cope organization. And then the other thing that I think a lot of people forget about, especially with substance abuse, and Chase and I had spoken about it, is the suicide prevention. We're really lucky that Barbara Wickham here in town created SANS. I think a lot of new people in town don't realize that organization exists. So we thought it was important to include suicide prevention on here as well. And then the other were just local support groups that are offered through Emerson Hospital that a lot of people don't realize. are out there. So I just think the more information we can get on there,
So this is information that, the hope is that the Board of Selectmen will say, okay, let's move forward, let's have this on the
this is
town
gonna go
website.
on the town website. We asked that they would have a special link for us.
The only, I mean, they all look like they're credible. I would just say there's gotta be just some clearinghouse or some vetting process, just to make sure that.
Right, yeah, no, so I agree with you. So Coyne, Deputy Chief Patterson can speak more to that organization. And then the other one, the Spectrum Services, Janessa and Donna that we met with spoke highly of that organization. So I understand what you're saying.
Would there be a webpage, maybe, like, in general, on the goal of opioid outreach? And rather than just links to other organizations, is there, there's a task force conference call meeting
Tomorrow night?
tomorrow.
Right,
You know, and I think it's a neat idea for like a task force to come up with a, you know, maybe a proposed mission statement or some
Right.
kind of, some kind of, you know, that, something that says what is it unique about what Littleton's approach is.
right,
And we could create such a page to highlight that and then certainly link all of these other organizations, but
right.
it's like the focus that, of what Littleton's goal is, I think,
Yeah.
would be something great to highlight.
Our unique
Right.
approach.
Right, and I was actually happy to hear that the website launch deadline got extended, because we were feeling pressured to pull something together and get some information on there prior to the launch, so.
Tomorrow night's a unique opportunity to have all town staff from the schools, from the police department, from the fire department, from EHS, as well as our champions, myself, to be in a room, and as well as Keith, I'm sorry, to be in the room to discuss.
I'll be with you virtually.
Oh, virtually. To discuss.
This is the concussion protocol.
To discuss everybody in one, the first time, I think, that everybody's in one room to discuss
Right.
this. I think this would be a great topic for discussion for tomorrow night, and town staff may have some recommendations.
Right, right. I mean, we're so fortunate because we do have some great resources right here in Littleton that, you know, we're lucky with that, we can pull everything together.
And it
So
seems
tomorrow-
the staff that's gonna be joining tomorrow night is really excited about trying to deal with this crisis, so.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think that you guys have reached out to Meredith Perry and Natalie.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right.
So, with the wellness committee at the high school.
Right.
Obviously the PD.
Mhm.
You guys have been great about keeping us front and center. But as we, Jeff, there was an example at the Clay Soper, the viewing, when you were up on stage, and one of Clay's friends said, I wish this guy was in my face yelling at me. You know, I wish I had
Right.
called 911.
Right.
You know, and it's, sometimes people have that, kids, I think, when they're faced with a crisis like that, they're more afraid of getting in trouble by the police than they are about doing the right thing and saving their
Right.
friend.
Right.
And, you know, the more we can keep beating that drum and making these guys not the enemy, and, you know,
Right.
the Good Samaritan law, and, you know, that they're your friends, they can help you, they're trained. We've got more and more people that are getting trained.
Right.
In this area, so.
Right.
To Keith's point, if we do have a page, or we do have, and you guys will talk about this, I'm sure.
Yeah, we can go through this tomorrow night.
Yeah, and then just bring something back to us,
Yeah.
and let's, you know, just keep beating the drum. Let's keep, you know, again, if we can affect one life and then save one life, then it was time well spent.
Right.
I appreciate all the time you guys put into this. I know it's touching more and more people. It's sad but true.
Well, it's interesting when you look at the statistics from surrounding communities, because I was thinking, I'm like, well, why, you know, I felt like we were behind compared to other communities, but I was looking at the statistics, and we haven't had a reason to have this on our front burner. We've been really fortunate, but, you know, we've been proactive with it, and, you know, just for the last couple of years, it's starting to really hit home with us, so we're fortunate that everybody is getting on board with this, and that, that the Littleton Police Department did already have a lot of great mechanisms in place, and we're learning more about it and pulling it together, so. it's
Fire
good.
department too, would be remiss if we
Oh,
left that
absolutely,
out.
yeah.
I think one thing that is worth mentioning is that when President Trump declared the opioid national emergency, one of the things that they really emphasized was something that Littleton and Deputy Chief Patterson is doing a lot with, and that's a drug court. And looking at rolling resources like that out more broadly. And so I'm hopeful, I mean, I know that declaration of a national emergency didn't come with any particular funding associated with it, but it would be nice if that was the opening salvo and something that actually came with financial resources that helped us expand things like drug court that W. Chief Patterson has suggested has been extremely effective, so.
The criminal justice bill that's rolling currently through our legislatures actually expands the drug courts greatly if it is approved out of both the House and our Senate. So that is in the current criminal justice reform bill to really expand. I think it's going to go into all the courts, or at least 100 courts or something like that. So we're fortunate that our district court's been participating now for
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years, so we're fortunate to have that in our area, but it's needed in other areas also.
Well, like we've seen, the area by area approach doesn't address the region-wide issue. So rolling it out statewide and region-wide would be a big benefit.
Sanders, good.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment with regard to that opioid. I know they cut it with something, and it sort of kind of has the effect of sort of kind of like powder, baby powder. You sort of kind of touch it, it sort of kind of floats in the air. Are our police officer aware that, you know, probably they shouldn't be touching this stuff that they have a bus or come down with unless they got, you know, some type of breathing apparatus there so that they don't get hit with that? Because I think it was in Boston there, some of the cops got real sick there behind that. They was breathing in the powder there, and they had Scott air packs that they showed later that the police officer went in with the gloves and stuff, and they started dealing with that to take that white powder and stuff. But I'm just wondering if we have our local officer here aware of that, and that they're using precautions and go and pick up some of this stuff, white packages.
You can answer that.
All our officers are equipped now with breathing apparatus, gloves, you know. Actually, all the officers, we purchased protective kits for them. The canine also is, they carry, you know, Narcan for the canine and other steps. They've actually changed the way the dogs, when they search for the drugs now, do it a lot differently. They don't go in so much, they sit, and it's more of a passive thing. But yes, all the officers are aware, and we're doing more and more education on it. But we took steps immediately after the Chelsea officers, actually were the first ones who got the cross-contamination.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for bringing that up.
I just want to thank the chief for going forth on that, because that's very important to our police force.
Keep them safe.
Appreciate your support, Mr. Sanders, as always.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we also have an update on the review of the status of town boards and committees. You want to take that?
Sure. So Paul and I met, and we went through this list. Keith actually had also provided us with a list a few months ago. So we sat down and went through this, and I think we just determined together that some of these boards and committees are inactive, and we just don't utilize them anymore. So we were gonna try to tighten up the list of active boards and committees. So I guess the direction that I need from Keith are, some we can vote on as a board, correct? And others,
Yes, in fact, it looks like on the list of those that are proposed to be abolished that are shown in red, that all of those are ones that have been established by vote of the Board of Selectmen.
okay,
So that
we tried to match it up, okay.
you could do that, and as soon as I get, here's my Computer freezes, I can put that list.
So I just didn't know if there were any questions
So I don't
about the
have-
ones we had highlighted.
I don't have any more students, Russell Street School Building Committee meetings.
I did have one question about the sign bylaw committee. Is that under planning or is that under us to?
You. So it was started with a joint effort of the selectmen and the planning board, but it was not a joint appointment.
Okay.
As we had had with, for example, the master plan update steering committee.
Sure.
Which was a joint appointment.
But it sat with the planning board after it was done. It was shelved.
Right, the report of the committee, which is now 5, 6 years old.
I think it's 2008.
It was really just an
Yeah,
authority question, to make sure
2000 Yeah,
that
2008, yeah.
we had authority, sole authority to abolish that. And as long as we have an affirmative answer.
So the Town Government Study Committee, I kind of found that interesting when I read through their last report. I think it was issued in 2010,
No, I think
except 2007?
2006 and rehashed in 2008 to see what was accomplished.
Oh, okay. I just thought there was some interesting information in there.
That was 2 years of work.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of work, so.
2 years you would like to repeat?
Actually, it was one of the best committees that I was ever on.
I mean, it's a big report, I don't know if anyone else has had a chance to read through it, but there's some, I just thought there was some interesting information in there. And is that something that we would want to revisit now that it's X amount of years later? But maybe, Joe, if you worked on that, maybe you have more insight to that.
I'm not sure if we're there yet. I think any town government study committee has to come up again because it needs to be revisited. But right now, I
Say no.
I wouldn't say, I think almost everything that, all the suggestions that were in only one wasn't carried out, I think. I have a question. You have Littleton Common Committee and Littleton Common Sewer Committee.
Didn't we decide those were redundant?
How was it redundant? That's what. So what does the sewer feasibility have to do alone with the Common Committee?
The Common Committee, as I understood it, was to beautification, upkeep, no?
No, it's the economic vitality of the common, right?
It was all those.
Everything
It was upkeep of that, but it was, the hope was to have that committee go out and talk to every landowner, every business there to find out why we have vacant buildings. And then, of course, at that time, maybe talking about the sewer too, but we never had one report back from that committee ever, so I don't know whether that's.
I don't know that it ever met more than once, but it almost seems like, not to like redo committee, but since we're now moving into another phase of, we're doing the Littleton Common Study. Town meeting just approved $80,000 for the master plan committee's implementation efforts, including coming up with a master plan for Littleton Common. I guess the question there would be, what's the best way to direct that effort? And if is it, for example, through the master plan committee? Or do you want to either reactivate or reform some other committee which has not met in
Since 2014.
2014, yeah.
Well,
I just put up here, this is my running list of the ones that were shown in red. All of those were established by vote of the Board of Selectmen, and I guess we haven't, it might be that we need to have a bigger discussion, maybe with the master plan committee, about what's the best way to organize for the Littleton Common planning project going forward. Are they helped or not by reactivating that committee? I don't remember who's on it.
If we vote to abolish things, I just leave that there for now.
Yeah.
I think it probably should be abolished, but
Yeah.
we have a discussion with the the master plan.
Yeah. Abolished or reconstituted?
See what to do with it, yeah,
Okay.
one or the other. The other one I have the questions about is the Corey Committee, not that it ever met either.
Yeah.
But I think this board should, every 3 or 4 years, go down there, 2 members go down there and find out where we stand on it, what's going on. Maybe we don't need a committee, but, I mean, could be an asset to the town, or it could be, who knows what's gonna happen when they're all done, you know?
Should it become a goal, one of the goals of the Board of Selectmen? To check on that?
I don't know, I just think it should be.
Just so it doesn't get lost in the
Should
shuffle?
be visited every so often, so
Okay.
we have an update. I mean, one day it could actually be a quarry. I mean, it could actually be a.
Amusement park.
No, I'm talking about water filling up.
Reservoir
type
Lake.
thing.
Reservoir,
They did down in Connecticut, they made like a adventure park out of an old quarry.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
I'm thinking a lot more.
I mean, that's the thing, though, old quarries can turn into all kinds of stuff. They can turn into landfills, too, so,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
you go a lot of different directions
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah, we had discussed the idea of having a quarry committee at the time that aggregate was in front of the planning board for something else, forget what it was. And we thought, wouldn't it be well to have a closure plan for the quarry? Even if that was decades in the future, we have their attention, maybe now they can work with us, and we missed that opportunity because, well, the planning board opted not to.
Exactly.
I mean, they must have some
engage with
estimates
us.
of remaining material that they can take out. There's,
Well, they just
Whether
built,
they wanna share.
Ross is building two new facilities across the street behind the temporary fire station, so, I don't think they're.
but a lot of that is not necessarily dealing with the material that's taken out of the quarry. A lot of that's
Reclamation.
cement, concrete. So I don't know, do you guys know, are they using material taken out of the quarry for aggregate in that?
I think some of the stone does, but most of it comes in via
Yeah,
train.
most of it's
That's
coming
why
in,
they
right?
rebuilt next to the spur there, so they can bring the high quantities in, because that plant is so much more efficient than the old plant was.
So I have no problem abolishing it, I just think that we should revisit it every so often.
This is the
Okay.
first time I knew we had a quarry committee when I looked at these minutes.
Right.
Or,
You have to look under a rock to find it.
It's a shame no
All
one's
right.
here to see it.
I have a question on this quarry, George Sanders, 672 Great Road. On this quarry, I noticed that there's a lot of blasting, and you can feel the shock all the way back over here to Great Road. And sometimes it's quite a bit, because I have been looking at Westwood community there, with the quarry that they have, I guess in Chelmsford or wherever. It's close by their neighborhood over there also. And they've been looking at getting a report and stuff as so often, letting them know what's going on and what's happening. I mean, this is a pretty good site out here and it's still active, and I guess who in the town is overlooking and seeing what's going on out there?
I don't know if the,
Not to speak for, I know when they do any blasting at the fire department is present, and they get all the reports on all the blasting, not to speak for them, but I do know that somebody from the fire department is there, and they get all those reports, but that's as far as I know.
yeah, I don't know.
And some of that window shaking blasting is associated with Devon's, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Certainly can be. They get the howitzers going off.
No,
Go ahead.
I don't think so.
What, Devon's?
Yeah.
That's a long way for Devon's
They warn us.
travel.
Devon's warns us.
That's on the south base, that's way in Lancaster.
Oh, really? I just know I've seen notices
Devon's
come through.
warned us
Yeah.
because of the shockwaves are actually felt almost down in the Concord.
Shakes my windows in my house. I hear it, but it's.
That's why he's painting the house. His windows shook so much. Crack the paint. I don't know if the building inspector gets notified. This is news to me that the fire department's notified Mr. Sanders. We could certainly look into that and, you know, just see if there is a a requirement for them to let us know. Something we can do, Keith?
We will.
All right, thank you. All right, so what action do we want to take tonight relative to the potential abolishing of, we've highlighted our red boards and committees that are in front of us here.
I'm gonna take out everything but the Littleton Common.
I don't think that wasn't proposed to be abolished.
Yeah, the Littleton Common Committee, we wanted, that was pending further discussion with the.
Oh, I misunderstood
Yeah,
the
so-
red highlighting, okay.
Red is not good for the future.
Yeah.
For the future, but not necessarily to be abolished per this motion, got it.
You can decide in what, you know, which of, if you want to, here's the draft motion, if you want to take any out, like Littleton Common or others, you can do that.
We wanted to take out Littleton Common, correct?
So just so you.
Yeah, I think
Pending
leave
further
it, yeah.
There's one more conversation to be had with the master plan committee about the future of the Littleton Common study, and who knows, maybe having a committee would be of some use to that, so.
And I would note there that the Littleton Common sewer, we should probably take the Littleton Common sewer feasibility out right now too, until we know exactly how that lands.
For the same reason, because
Yeah, exactly. What are
we
the
haven't
pieces?
figured out what is the component by which we're gonna have public input.
Exactly, what I would hate to do is take out the Littleton Common sewer feasibility without replacing something for the public
Yeah.
to be very familiar with the fact that we're
Okay.
seeking public input on.
Okay.
I like it. A little sad about the Russell Street School Building Committee.
Well, we closed the
It'll
books
come
on
back.
that a long time ago.
Yeah.
We just never got around
Come
to.
back around sometime, Chuck.
Yeah, we did some final checks, final
Okay.
audit, yeah, it was,
All in due time.
that was a great project, because it was approved for $15 million by the state, and we did it for 10. Right, it was around, yeah, 10-ish, 10 plus. Yeah.
10, 11. That was a good project. I wish we had incorporated the field and the track in that all at once. But we're gonna have to do
Wouldn't have
three
got,
different.
yeah, wouldn't have got
We
that was,
wouldn't-
because that was a fast-tracked
I know.
SBA project, for sure.
Yeah, I know.
That would have slowed us down.
No, we wouldn't have. We just wouldn't have gotten the funding for the track.
Yeah, we would have had to come up with the money on.
We did come up with the money. We approved $15 million. We won't go into that right now. What's that?
Well done.
He's getting me going.
So you want a motion?
So we've pulled out, is there anything else we need to pull out, or are we good up there? We're good.
I think we're good.
I thought we were following the lead on the school committee.
That's why I ran the school committee initially.
Are we ready?
I think we are.
Okay.
One question, now I bring it up. The housing committee, how far back is that date, do we know?
It was an ad hoc group that helped with the housing production plan, which Dave, what was his name? It was Rich Crowley from the planning board. It was a very small group who just met for the period of time that we were updating the housing production plan. Last meeting was in 2013.
Okay, no, I was thinking something long.
Yeah, it doesn't reach back to 10 years before that, when there was yet another, this was a.
Well, the one you talked about before, that dates back to the early 2000s, that
Yes.
was another one that did work and it was shelved.
Right. And we just established at town meeting the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee, which will, because it will have money, will be a player. So we're not getting out of the housing business, we're going into it bigger than ever, actually.
So we're good?
Okay, sorry, Cindy.
Are we good? Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to abolish the following town boards established by prior votes of the Board of Selectmen. Board of Board Chairs, Cooper Farm Preservation Committee, Housing Committee, Littleton MBTA Advisory Committee, Master Plan Update Steering Committee, Pay-As-You-Throw Implementation Committee, Quarry Committee, Russell Street School Building Committee, Study Committee, Permitting Boards and Departments, Terrencial General Planning Committee, Town Government Study Committee, Track and Field Funding Committee.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. It's unanimous, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just return to something real quick. I don't want to be pedantic here. The motion that we approved and the factor here are ever so slightly different. I wanted to make sure that
You
that
redact it if we need
isn't
to.
a problem, right, because we can fix it. if
The
we need.
motion,
For the tax classification, I mean, we're talking 6 significant figures here.
yeah,
The factor on the sheet is 891,670. The motion that we approved was 891,668. I don't think it actually matters, but
so
It's rounding error.
it's rounding the 6, 8 to a
Probably.
7.
yeah, what's written here is 891,670.
Okay.
Oh, I see, so it went up 2, okay.
I'd hate to get bound up for some.
Right,
If you, so friendly amendment to have the motion match the document you're signing.
That would be the motion that I
Okay.
would make, yes.
Done.
Well, it doesn't, as far as the math is concerned, it's not, there's
No,
It's
doesn't-
6
no.
significant figures, I don't.
No, I think it would, it'd only be that we would certainly want, you know, any backup that we have referencing that document that you being asked to sign, have the same number on it, so thanks.
Call Bonnie, get her back, or have her fix it.
Hello?
No, we fixed the
Stop
motion.
the presses, no, we want 68, damn it.
Thank you for catching that. All right, next up, we have Selectmen's meeting schedule through May of 2018. And so,
And we've got a bunch of meetings coming up just for, starting next Monday night, just as a reminder. It's a one-item agenda a week from tonight, on November 20th. We've got to interview and appoint members of the police chief search preliminary screening committee. There are 3 community at-large positions to be filled. We just got another application, are we up to 10? or-
Up to 10, I believe.
So it might be, we might have a dozen applicants, so I was talking with the chair earlier and with Anthony, and in order to make sure that we get through next Monday night, it's only one agenda, but we'll be interviewing applicants for town boards. Remember back at the retreat, one of the items that the board looked into, identified for improvement, was to sort of pre-plan for how those interview sessions would go for town boards. Since we have 2 gold champions for charge for this goal in Chuck and Chase, I just make the suggestion, rather than have us spend the first half hour of next Monday night's meeting figuring out what the procedure is, you might want to, task the gold champions to spell out the procedure so we can put it in the agenda packet and say, is it going to be a set list of questions? Is there a sample list attached? Are you going to, rotate who asks the question? It's going, we want to make sure that the same questions get asked of all candidates. We had learned that much from the retreat. And just to spend some time putting together the framework of what that might go, how that might happen. The other thing to think about is just, how are you then going to manage if at the end of the night you're making, it's always easy to appoint an equal number of applicants to the openings. If you've got 3 openings, it always works better if you have 3 applicants. If you have three or 4 times that many, then it's good. Then it's going to take some consideration of what's the process by which you reduce the total number of applicants down to a lower number. You can't, all the votes that the board takes have to be in open session. There's no, you can't do secret ballots. I'm not sure that you can, even scribble things down on a piece of paper to decide what your rank order of candidates are. There are a number of things that we can look at. And I'd suggest that it would be worth, in order to make sure we
go through next Monday night in an organized fashion, it would be worth just spending a little bit of time beforehand,
Front side.
spelling out what the procedure is. So however you want to do that, I think it might be useful to have a proposed procedure that's drafted and put in front of the board. You can, as a board, discuss that procedure, whether that's okay next Monday night or whether you want to amend it. But to almost agree to how are you going to conduct your business next Monday night? Because it's a little unusual.
I do like the idea of essentially debating what the form of the debate is gonna look like first, agree to the ground rules and the format, then hopefully streamline it. So that seems like the first item
And
agenda.
I think the group could also come up with a draft list of questions that you might want to consider and then have the full, and then as a first order of business, have the board adopt the rule, if you will, adopt how you want to, or see how you want to proceed, and then when you go through with your dozen or so applicants, then they'll all be treated the same.
As far as that draft list of questions, obviously, we don't have anything prepared now. We're not gonna be able to approve anything as a board until the night of. Yet, maybe we should have thought of this ahead of time, but we are where we are.
Yeah.
Yet, I think it would be beneficial for the applicants to be able to consider the draft questions. Is that something
It's public
that,
rec-
is that something that
public
we could
record.
put out as draft questions, and then, of course, the board, when we first sit, will finalize that?
I think that we should do that, and I think that if everybody's okay with you and I drafting a couple questions, and if you guys want to give some input to Keith and or Anthony, for us.
And then
to maybe,
we'll huddle with a conference
we can
call.
huddle, yeah, to try to establish a couple questions so that you don't have the benefit of candidate number one getting hit with
Yeah.
3 questions.
Candidate
And
number
then candidate
12.
number 12, it's like, yeah, what he said and what she
Candidate
said.
numbers,
a
3
little bit of
answers,
what-
get there, 4 there, and I'll take 7 for
Right,
this
we
one.
have the benefit of being able to, and they can still do that, but at least they'll all have had ample time to prepare.
With the understanding that any questions that are viewable for the public are, by their very nature, draft until they're approved.
Mhm.
Monday
Monday night by us, as a city board.
And our deadline would be to get the agenda items out, by Wednesday, yeah, be helpful to have Wednesday afternoon.
You guys okay with us?
I'm fine with that.
If you have any questions or any input, I'd just send them to these guys, just copy them, and then just in case somebody falls or something.
So we need any questions?
Yeah.
So we need any
Designated
questions,
survivor.
any questions forwarded us before we speak tomorrow night
Correct.
from any other
Yeah,
select?
if we're hoping to have a conference call by the end of the day tomorrow, we haven't picked a time yet for tomorrow, but whatever works out.
So it'd either have to be before the task force or after.
Mm-hmm.
Or the spaghetti dinner.
Busy place around here.
Because they're gonna go to college before I see them
Jeez.
Full papers.
My kids are in.
again.
Timing's everything.
Apparently they didn't give me enough beer. No, they do, they.
I mean, I guess I would say probably after the, no? Oh, yeah.
No, after's easier for me, because, I mean,
I can do a
To
conference.
get
I can
to
do a
town by
conference
6
call
o'clock is-
after.
Yeah,
You know,
that's it.
if
That's
it's like
fine.
7:30 or something tomorrow night.
So I'm figuring we'll probably end about 7 o'clock tomorrow with the
Mhm.
other, Chase, you'll be there anyways. Chuck, if you can swing by, if not, call in.
Right.
Keith,
Call
we can
in, yeah.
call
Yeah.
in.
why don't we plan on doing that? So your group is meeting at 6?
5:30.
Okay, so I'm hoping to go to the pasta supper at the middle school, and it doesn't take me long to eat some ziti. I'll wear a bib, and then I can shoot over here, and we can do, Mom, we have to go to your office, because that way he can, or 307, so that you can dial in, and we can just have some discussion.
Yeah,
We'll call Keith
yeah,
on
with
the
your
cell
cell
phone.
phone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, good plan.
Okay.
Okay. As far as the schedule is concerned, does anybody have any concerns or see any glaring obstacles? Are we meeting on a holiday or?
Yeah, it's typically, it's January and February, it's the weeks before and after, like the, Martin Luther King and President's Day and holiday. Avoiding Patriots' Day in April.
Nothing jumps off the page of me as
No,
being a problem.
likewise.
You can always change if, I think we're avoiding, we're not coming up against any Monday Night Football, so.
Okay.
So we need a motion as to,
I think so, that'd be great, Mr. Clerk.
will the Board of Selectmen vote to schedule the following Board of Selectmen's regular meetings for the dates indicated at 6:30 in room 103 Shadow Street Building in January the 8th and the 22nd, February 12th and 26th, March 12th and 26th, April 9th and 23rd, and May 14th and 21st.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much. And we do have a set of minutes to be approved from October 23rd. Thank you. Got to get through our Cooper Farm deed. Mr. Glavy's not here. I do see his name.
Ms. Glavy? No? I didn't have any comments.
No, I'm good. Okay.
That's fine with me.
Entertain a motion?
Move the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the meeting minutes of October 23rd, 2017.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much. And I don't think we have anything further. Nothing more. Mr. Ansaldi, do you have anything?
I don't.
Updates? Very good. Mr. Sanders, you good?
I'm good.
Appreciate you sticking in there with us. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
So move the second before we take the vote. Folks, we are meeting next Monday. It is a single item agenda Board of Selectmen meeting for the interviews and appointment of 3 citizens at large for the police chief selection committee? Not selection.
Preliminary screening committee.
Preliminary screening committee, I apologize. That will start at 6:30 next Monday night. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much, folks. Have a great week.